Beneath the sands of ancient Mesopotamia, buried in the forgotten ruins of cities long lost to time, lies a civilization whose secrets continue to defy explanation. The Sumerians, the world's first great builders of cities, left behind a legacy not only of monumental architecture and advanced technology, but of mysteries that still haunt modern science. How did they possess knowledge of the stars long before telescopes or space exploration? What were the true origins of their gods, the Anunnaki, and their cryptic rituals that seem to echo through the ages? From the enigmatic tablets inscribed with strange symbols to the towering ziggurats that seem more like gateways to another world than mere temples, the Sumerian mysteries raise more questions than they answer. Were they merely a product of their time, or did they have knowledge that reached far beyond the scope of their era? Join us as we journey into the heart of one of the oldest and most puzzling civilizations on Earth. From the tablets of Shamash to the forbidden knowledge of the Tree of Life, we'll explore the hidden truths that still elude us. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the ancient mysteries of Sumer. The Sumerian sun disk, an artifact of unimaginable age, yet still holding the weight of ancient secrets. Imagine holding an object that once shimmered under the sun over 5,000 years ago, its surface worn smooth by centuries, its purpose both divine and functional, its design so intricate that it seems almost ahead of its time. This mysterious disk, often associated with the Sumerian sun god Utu, has been found in various forms, from carved stone to intricate metalwork, and each time it raises the same question: what did it represent, and how did the Sumerians come to create it? In the heart of Sumer, amid the bustling city-states of Ur, Uruk, and Nippur, the sun disk was no mere symbol. It was a beacon of power, a sacred representation of Utu, the god who controlled the sun's path and, by extension, the fate of all life on Earth. Carved in perfect circles and concentric designs, these discs were used in temples, rituals, and royal burials. But the meaning embedded in these discs goes far beyond simple religious iconography. What makes the sun disk truly enigmatic is its connection to something far more grounded in reality than myth: technology. There is something about the way the disk is designed, the precision, the symmetry, the craftsmanship, that suggests it may have been more than a decorative object. Many scholars have speculated that it might represent something far greater than just a divine symbol. Could the sun disk have served as a functional tool? Did it possess practical, technological applications hidden beneath its sacred aura? In some of the more curious theories, the disk has been likened to a kind of ancient solar panel, possibly capturing sunlight or energy in ways we do not fully understand. The concept seems far-fetched at first. Ancient Sumerians, with their limited resources and rudimentary tools, harnessing solar power. But is it truly so impossible? Ancient cultures, especially the Sumerians, displayed an astonishing grasp of engineering and mathematics, two fields that were far ahead of their time. Could it be that the sun disk wasn't just a religious object, but a key to unlocking energy from the most powerful force known to humanity, the sun itself? The mystery deepens when we consider the role of astronomy in Sumerian society. The Sumerians were among the first to chart the stars with precision, and their knowledge of the heavens was nothing short of remarkable. They mapped constellations, tracked the movements of planets, and created a calendar system based on lunar cycles. All of this suggests an intimate understanding of celestial mechanics, an understanding that goes beyond what we would expect from a civilization living in the 3rd millennium BCE. If the sun disk was indeed a tool with some connection to their astronomical knowledge, could it have been used to track the sun's movements, or even to generate power through solar observation? When examining the sun disk's placement within Sumerian temples, one begins to question whether these objects served a ritualistic purpose only, or whether they had a deeper, more practical application. Were they used as instruments of divination, guiding the priests in their celestial observations, or perhaps even to harness cosmic energy to empower certain rituals? Could the Sumerians have been using advanced technologies, knowledge lost to time, that we are only now beginning to uncover? Another striking feature of the sun disk is the sheer consistency with which it appears in Sumerian art and artifacts. Often depicted in association with divine beings or royal figures, the disk is more than just a representation of Utu. It appears to symbolize a divine connection between the heavens and earth, a conduit between mankind and the gods. The disk is often found accompanying symbols of power, and it raises an unsettling question. Was this symbolism merely metaphorical? Or was there something more, something real, that allowed the Sumerians to elevate their culture through this representation? Some fringe theorists, who explore the intersections of ancient knowledge and advanced technology, suggest that the sun disk could have been an artifact handed down from an ancient, possibly extraterrestrial civilization. These theories argue that the Sumerians, in their close connection with celestial beings like the Anunnaki, might have inherited advanced technologies that were misinterpreted as divine gifts. Could the sun disk be a remnant of a technology far older than Sumer itself, or even a relic from a distant star? While mainstream historians and archaeologists remain cautious in endorsing such theories, they do acknowledge that the Sumerians' technological sophistication was exceptional for their time. Their construction of massive ziggurats, the intricate design of their cuneiform script, and their profound understanding of the cosmos all point to a civilization capable of achievements that we have yet to fully comprehend. As scholars continue to debate the true purpose of the sun disk, we are left with the eerie feeling that we are only scratching the surface of a much deeper mystery. The artifact itself, with its brilliant circular designs, remains a puzzle that even modern technology cannot fully decode. Was it simply a religious symbol, or did it hold the key to an ancient science that has been lost to history? What if the sun disk was more than just an object of worship? What if it was a piece of a larger puzzle, one that, when fully understood, could reveal secrets of technology and knowledge that predate recorded history? The questions linger in the air, unanswered, and perhaps that's exactly what makes this ancient artifact so compelling. In the end, the sun disk serves as a silent witness to a civilization whose knowledge of the cosmos and technology still eludes us. As we continue to study these ancient remnants, one thing is clear: the story of the Sumerians is far from finished. What remains buried in their past may one day shine a light on the mysteries of the present. As we turn our attention from the enigmatic sun disk to another deeply symbolic element of Sumerian culture, we find ourselves drawn into the profound mystery of the Tree of Life. This ancient symbol, seen in various forms across the art and architecture of Sumer, holds within it the keys to understanding not just Sumerian spirituality, but possibly something much more. Picture a beautifully crafted stone relief, where two figures stand on either side of a great tree, its branches stretching toward the heavens. This is one of the most recognizable depictions of the Tree of Life in Sumerian iconography, and it's more than just a decorative element. The tree, often depicted as an acacia or a date palm, has been interpreted as a symbol of divine power, a connection between the earthly and the celestial, the mortal and the immortal. It is perhaps the most iconic motif within Sumerian art, appearing in the royal courts, the temples, and even the myths themselves. But what exactly did the Sumerians believe the Tree of Life represented? Its meaning seems to transcend mere representation. According to Sumerian myth, the tree was not simply a natural element. It was a living conduit, a bridge between realms, offering both sustenance and knowledge. In the hands of the gods, the Tree of Life symbolized eternal life, but it also hinted at a deeper mystery, a secret that the Sumerians may have been trying to convey through their art, architecture, and sacred texts. Throughout the temples and palaces of ancient Mesopotamia, the Tree of Life appears again and again. In some depictions, it stands beside the divine, gods like Eanna or Enki, who seem to interact with it, sometimes reaching for its fruits or even holding them. In other cases, it is guarded by mythical creatures, such as the lion-headed eagle, suggesting its sacred and protected status. The symbolism is clear. This tree was no ordinary plant. It was the axis around which the divine world spun, the axis mundi that connected the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. But what exactly did the Tree of Life stand for beyond these divine connections? Was it merely a symbol of immortality? Or was it something more profound, something closer to the knowledge of the cosmos? Could it have represented the Sumerian understanding of life itself? Some believe that the Tree of Life was tied to Sumerian practices of ascension and enlightenment, where the act of climbing the tree was akin to a journey toward higher knowledge or spiritual awakening. The fruit of the tree, then, might not just have been a physical sustenance, but a metaphorical one, granting the eater wisdom, power, or immortality. There are also those who argue that the Tree of Life had a more mysterious, even scientific role within Sumerian society. Could it have been a symbol of something far more tangible, perhaps a form of ancient technology that was central to Sumerian civilization? If the tree was a metaphorical representation of life itself, could its symbolism extend to the Sumerians' agricultural practices, and more specifically to their sophisticated understanding of plant-based medicine, genetics, and even the control of life forces? After all, the Sumerians had vast knowledge of agriculture, irrigation, and the cultivation of crops, skills that required a deep understanding of biology, environmental science, and the cycles of life. Could the Tree of Life represent this intricate knowledge? There is another intriguing, more speculative theory that ties the Sumerian Tree of Life to the broader cosmic and astronomical themes we've explored. Some theorists suggest that the tree could have represented the constellations or cosmic forces. The Sumerians were, after all, masters of astronomy, with their gods often linked to the movements of the stars and planets. Could the Tree of Life have symbolized the tree of the cosmos, connecting the celestial bodies with the mortal world, and by doing so, offering the key to understanding the universe itself? The most compelling aspect of the Tree of Life is its enduring presence throughout ancient cultures, not just in Sumer. From the ancient Egyptians to the Norse, the Tree of Life appears in various forms, always linked to the themes of creation, life, and knowledge. The similarities between these various depictions suggest that the symbol may have had a universal significance, one that transcended the boundaries of time and geography. But why was this symbol so important? What was it about the idea of a tree that made it the perfect representation of life, knowledge, and power across different civilizations? Could this recurring motif be a hint at some ancient shared knowledge or belief, one that was common to early human societies and perhaps even passed down from a forgotten time? Sumerian myths tell us that the gods themselves, including Enki, the god of wisdom, interacted with the Tree of Life, using its powers for their divine purposes. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, the tree is mentioned in the context of seeking immortality, and even in the Bible, we see echoes of the same symbol in the Garden of Eden. Is it possible that the Tree of Life was a universal symbol representing humanity's longing for connection with the divine, for immortality, or for knowledge that transcends the boundaries of life and death? The most intriguing aspect of the Tree of Life, however, is its potential to hold a deeper secret, something we have not yet fully unraveled. For while its meaning may seem clear on the surface, there are still questions that linger. Why was this symbol so central to Sumerian belief? Was the Tree of Life purely metaphorical, or did it have a deeper, hidden significance, one that involved more than just the cycles of life and death. Could the tree have represented a deeper, more cosmic truth, one that the Sumerians had access to, but that has been lost to us over millennia? The more we examine the symbolism of the Tree of Life, the more we realize that there is still much about Sumerian culture that remains veiled in mystery. Was the Tree of Life simply a religious symbol, or did it encode a deeper understanding of life, knowledge, and the universe? The question remains open, and as we continue our exploration of Sumerian secrets, perhaps this ancient symbol will offer us the key to unlocking yet another forgotten truth. The Tree of Life, after all, may hold more than just the secrets of the Sumerians. It may hold the key to understanding our own connection to the ancient world and the mysteries that still lie hidden within it. Having delved into the powerful symbolism of the Tree of Life, we now turn our attention to another enduring enigma of the Sumerian world, the Gudea statues. These lifelike, meticulously carved figures are among the most striking artifacts left behind by the Sumerians. Found in the ancient city of Lagash, these statues have puzzled archaeologists and historians for centuries. But it's not just the craftsmanship or the political significance of these figures that commands our attention. It's the unsettling feeling that they might be hiding something more. The Gudea statues depict the ruler of Lagash, Gudea, who reigned around 2100 BCE. Carved from stone and often polished to a gleaming finish, the statues show the king seated in a posture of deep contemplation or divine communion, his hands often holding objects of symbolic importance, such as a vase or an altar. These regal portraits are far more than mere representations of power. They are laden with meaning, their serene expressions hiding a wealth of secrets that still elude us today. One of the most striking features of the Gudea statues is the eyes, so finely detailed and lifelike that they almost seem to gleam with a sense of awareness. These eyes have been the focal point of much speculation. They stand out not just because of their realism, but because they seem almost too realistic. Unlike the stylized faces common in Sumerian sculpture, Gudea's eyes seem to possess an unnerving depth, as if they are not merely artistic embellishments, but something more. Are they a reflection of the divine connection Gudea shared with the gods, or do they hide some other secret, a coded message perhaps, or a forgotten truth? The peculiar emphasis on the eyes of these statues raises many questions. Sumerians were known to imbue their artwork with deep symbolism, and the eyes, often referred to as the windows to the soul, seem like an intentional choice. Why were they so carefully carved and so intricately designed? In some instances, the eyes appear to have been inlaid with precious materials, like lapis lazuli or shell, creating a gleaming effect that is meant to catch the light, making Gudea's gaze all the more hypnotic. Was this an attempt to convey divine insight? Was it an artistic representation of the godly vision that the ruler was believed to possess? Or could it be something else altogether? The details in the statues go beyond their faces. Gudea is often depicted in a way that implies his sacred authority, holding symbols that connect him with the gods. He wears a headdress adorned with horns, an unmistakable sign of divinity in Sumerian art. His posture is regal, but also contemplative, suggesting that he wasn't simply a ruler in the conventional sense. Some have speculated that Gudea's role was not just political, but spiritual. Perhaps he was seen as the earthly representative of the gods, their agent in the mortal realm, someone who could communicate divine will to the people of Lagash. But this leads us to an even more intriguing possibility. If Gudea was truly the mouthpiece of the gods, might the statues be more than just representations of the ruler's power? Could they have been created not only to memorialize his reign, but to communicate a hidden message, something encoded in the very fabric of the statue itself? The lifelike eyes, the exact proportions, and the calm, almost hypnotic demeanor might all be part of a greater plan, a coded form of communication intended for those who could decode its meaning. There is a theory, though speculative, that suggests the Gudea statues might have been more than just divine representations or political symbols. Could they have been something akin to advanced machines? Some fringe theorists propose that the statues could be the physical manifestation of a much more complex technology, perhaps an early form of energy conduits or communication devices. Given the Sumerians' sophisticated understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and geometry, it's not entirely beyond the realm of possibility to imagine that the statues may have been designed with a hidden function, something we don't yet fully understand. Could the eyes have been constructed in such a way to receive or transmit energy, perhaps acting as channels to the divine or even to a higher hidden source of knowledge? While there's no physical evidence to support such theories, the sheer intricacy of the statues invites further contemplation. How did the Sumerians, without the technology we possess today, manage to create such lifelike and powerful representations? Could they have been tapping into a form of ancient knowledge, perhaps handed down by the gods themselves, that enabled them to produce works of art and technology that seemed to transcend their time? Could these statues be an ancient form of what we would now call technology, bridging the gap between art, divinity, and scientific achievement? There are also the texts that accompany the statues, which offer a glimpse into Gudea's thoughts and aspirations. In the inscriptions, Gudea speaks of building temples, ensuring the well-being of his people, and serving the gods with a pure heart. But what is most fascinating about these inscriptions is the way they describe his relationship with the divine. In one particularly striking passage, Gudea claims to have received a vision from the god Ningirsu, who instructed him to build a temple. This vision was so vivid that Gudea felt compelled to carve it into his statues, immortalizing both the divine directive and his own role as an intermediary. Could it be that these statues, in their solemnity and realism, are not just images of earthly kingship, but representations of a deeper, mystical experience? Could the eyes in these statues be more than just lifelike portrayals? Could they have been crafted to capture the essence of this divine vision, locking it away in stone for eternity? For centuries, scholars and archaeologists have puzzled over these statues, debating their significance and the possible meanings of the symbols and gestures that Gudea adopts in his depictions. But the question remains: what are the Gudea statues truly trying to tell us? Is it simply the expression of a ruler's power, his divine right to lead? Or is there something more to these figures? Something hidden beneath the surface? Could the gaze of Gudea's eyes, so carefully sculpted and so full of intent, be guiding us toward a truth that we have yet to understand? The mystery of the Gudea statues, like many others from the Sumerian world, remains open, their secrets locked away, waiting for the day when we may finally unlock their meaning. And so we are left with a single haunting question: what is it that the eyes of Gudea truly see? And what is it that they are trying to show us? As we continue our exploration of Sumerian mysteries, we now encounter a legend that has haunted the ancient records of Mesopotamia for centuries: the curse of the Sumerian king's list. This list, a seemingly straightforward compilation of the rulers of Sumer, stretches across dynasties and generations, cataloging the names of kings who supposedly ruled for unimaginable lengths of time. But beneath its surface, something far darker lurks, something that raises questions not only about the historical accuracy of the list, but about the very nature of time, power, and fate itself. The King's List, a clay tablet dating back to the early 2nd millennium BCE, details the reigns of Sumer's rulers, beginning with a series of kings whose reigns last for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years. This, in itself, seems impossible by modern standards. According to the list, the first kings were given near immortal lifespans, with rulers like Alulim, the first king of Eridu, who is said to have ruled for 28,800 years. His successor, Alalngar, is credited with a reign of 36,000 years. How could this be? Were these figures symbolic, a means of conveying the divine favor these kings were believed to possess? Or was there something deeper at work, something lost to time and perhaps hidden deliberately by those who documented these kings? As we continue to examine the tablet, we see the lengths of rule gradually shorten, eventually settling into more familiar human timeframes. But the list doesn't just catalog the kings of Sumer. It also tells of a cataclysmic event that occurs after the reign of the earliest kings. The tablet speaks of a great flood, a calamity that wiped out much of the world, including these long-reigning kings. After the flood, the reigns become more in line with what we would expect from historical records, but still, there remains an unsettling silence surrounding the transition from these godlike figures to the more mortal kings that follow. What happened during that time, when divine rulers seemed to fade into myth? The presence of this flood, a theme found not only in the Sumerian kings list, but also in the Akkadian, Babylonian, and Hebrew traditions, has caused many to wonder if this event was merely a metaphorical expression of societal upheaval, or if it reflects a real catastrophic event that occurred long ago. Some suggest that the flood was a result of environmental factors, like sudden shifts in climate or the overflowing of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. But could the Great Flood symbolize something more profound? A cosmic reckoning that led to the disappearance of these ancient rulers? Could this event be the key to understanding the shifting nature of time and power in Sumer? Further intrigue is found in the details of the kings' list itself. While the vast majority of the kings are listed with their reigns, there are a few names that are conspicuously absent from the records, or only appear in fragments. These omissions have prompted scholars to suggest that there may have been an intentional effort to obscure certain rulers from history, possibly due to their perceived illegitimacy or their connection to darker, more mysterious events. Was the list manipulated for political reasons? Or was there something about these rulers that rendered them too dangerous or too enigmatic to be remembered? The fact that the Sumerians were so meticulous in their record-keeping only adds to the mystery. In addition to the names that have been lost to history, there is another strange element embedded in the king's list: the idea of rulers who seem to vanish, their names erased from the tablets as if they never existed. Could these disappearances be part of a larger, hidden narrative? Were these rulers the victims of a curse, erased not by time, but by a deliberate act of suppression? The idea of a curse is a recurring theme in ancient texts. Could the Sumerian kings list, with its shifting kings, missing names, and catastrophic floods, be the artifact of a powerful and forbidden truth, one that the Sumerians themselves tried to bury? A particularly fascinating aspect of the kings list involves the enigmatic figures known as the post-Diluvian rulers. After the flood, the list resumes with names that are more recognizably human, but still there is something off about these later kings. While their reigns are far shorter, averaging only a few decades, the curse seems to persist in subtle ways. The rapid succession of rulers, the brief reigns, the constant upheaval, all suggest a world in turmoil, a world struggling to find stability after a great catastrophe. Could the flood, as told in the king's list, be a metaphor for the destruction of an older order of kingship, one that was intimately connected to the divine and the eternal? And if so, what was the nature of this old order, and what did it mean for the Sumerians' understanding of power and fate? While scholars have tried to make sense of the king's list through a variety of lenses, from historical analysis to symbolic interpretation, there are still unanswered questions that linger like shadows across this ancient text. Was the king's list simply a record of kings and events? Or was it a coded document, telling of a cosmic battle between the gods and humanity, with the flood serving as a great purging event? Could the curse referenced in the list not just be the erasure of certain rulers, but the very fate that befell the Sumerian civilization itself, forcing them into a cycle of collapse and renewal? And if the kings of the early periods truly ruled for thousands of years, what does that tell us about the Sumerians' understanding of time, power, and divine intervention? The king's list continues to be a puzzle, its symbolism and meaning still open to interpretation. Was it a reflection of the Sumerians' deep reverence for their kings, their belief in divine right, and their connection to the gods? Or was it a more subtle reflection of a lost history, one that might hold the key to understanding the true nature of Sumerian civilization, and perhaps even the ancient knowledge that was lost in the flood? We may never fully answer these questions, but the mystery of the Sumerian kings list reminds us that there is far more to the ancient world than we can see. Its curse, if indeed it exists, may not just be the fading of names from history, but a deeper, more insidious force, one that continues to leave us wondering about the forgotten kings and the untold stories of a civilization that shaped the very foundations of human history. Continuing our journey through the enigmatic world of ancient Sumer, we now come across a set of artifacts that are as mysterious as they are rare: the tablets of Shamash. These ancient stone tablets, which date back to the 3rd millennium BCE, are said to contain the wisdom and divine decrees of Shamash, the Sumerian god of the sun, justice, and truth. The tablets, etched with cuneiform writing, offer a window into Sumerian spirituality, law, and cosmology. Yet, despite their scholarly study and reverence over the centuries, the true significance of these tablets remains elusive, clouded in layers of symbolism and unspoken truths. The tablets of Shamash are not just ordinary relics. They are artifacts that seem to have carried great spiritual and judicial weight in the Sumerian world. Shamash, known as the solar deity, was considered the upholder of justice, the one who illuminated both the physical and moral realms. His influence was profound, not just in the everyday lives of the Sumerians, but in their understanding of the cosmos itself. Shamash was believed to provide the divine insight that guided kings and rulers, offering wisdom in the governance of the land and the establishment of laws. These tablets, inscribed with the gods' decrees, were not only sacred, they were practical, believed to serve as a divine blueprint for justice and morality. What makes the tablets of Shamash so intriguing is not simply the content that they convey, but the questions they raise. These tablets were carefully crafted, each one bearing the weight of divine authority. They are not merely legal texts, they are sacred conduits between the divine and the mortal. But what exactly is hidden within their cryptic inscriptions? Are these tablets simply law codes? Or do they contain something more? Something beyond our current understanding? One of the most mysterious aspects of the Shamash tablets is their connection to the concept of divine justice. According to the texts, Shamash was not only a god of the sun, but also a god of cosmic order, ensuring that the forces of chaos and disorder were held at bay. The tablets describe Shamash as the ultimate judge, one who presides over the fate of both gods and men. Yet in many ways, the law codes associated with Shamash go beyond mere jurisprudence. They outline a moral code that seems to suggest an underlying order to the universe, an order that may have been understood by the Sumerians, but has largely been lost to us today. The Sumerian justice system, as inscribed on the tablets, reveals a complex set of laws and procedures that govern everything from commerce to personal conduct. But the manner in which these laws are framed suggests something more profound. There is a sense that these laws are not just human creations, but divine revelations, given by Shamash himself. The tablets describe Shamash as offering guidance to the kings and rulers of Sumer, instructing them on how to maintain balance and order within their kingdoms. The very structure of these laws suggests that the Sumerians may have believed their world was maintained by a delicate balance between the divine and the earthly. And yet, as we examine these tablets more closely, we are faced with deeper questions. For all the light they shed on Sumerian society, the tablets also hint at darker, more mysterious elements. There are sections within the texts that are cryptic in nature, offering ambiguous references to rituals, cosmic events, and symbols that are not fully understood. Could the tablets of Shamash contain hidden knowledge of cosmic truths or metaphysical realms that we are only beginning to comprehend? Some researchers have suggested that there might be more to the symbolism found within the tablets, elements that connect the Sumerians' legal and moral frameworks to a greater, more esoteric worldview. The Sumerians were not just concerned with earthly justice. They also sought to understand their place in the universe. Shamash, as a solar deity, represented not just the physical sun, but also the cosmic order that governed the movement of stars and planets. In this light, the tablets may hold clues not only to Sumerian governance and law, but to their understanding of the cosmos itself. The imagery and language used in the tablets evoke a sense of a world that is in constant balance, a world where the forces of order and chaos are in a delicate and continuous struggle. Could the tablets of Shamash be a key to unlocking an ancient Sumerian cosmology? One that goes beyond our understanding of the natural world and into the realm of the metaphysical? Adding to the intrigue are the mysterious symbols and motifs found in the tablets. Some scholars have pointed out that certain symbols appear repeatedly across different tablets associated with Shamash, symbols that do not appear elsewhere in Sumerian texts. These symbols, ranging from intricate geometric patterns to depictions of the sun and its rays, seem to suggest a deeper layer of meaning, one that transcends mere legal discourse. What are these symbols trying to convey? Could they be tied to esoteric knowledge, passed down through secret channels and preserved only in sacred texts like the tablets of Shamash? And why are these symbols so carefully guarded, appearing only in certain sacred texts and not in the broader body of Sumerian writing? Another question that arises from these tablets is the role of Shamash himself. We know that Shamash was considered a just and fair god, but could he have had a deeper, more secret role in Sumerian thought? Some researchers have speculated that Shamash was not only a god of justice, but also a figure who represented the transmission of hidden knowledge. Could the tablets of Shamash, in some way, be a form of divine communication? A way for the gods to impart wisdom to the people of Sumer? Some suggest that Shamash was a god who bridged the gap between the heavens and the earth, and that these tablets might have served as a vehicle for divine knowledge that was meant to guide the rulers of Sumer, but also to protect them from the dangers of hubris and corruption. The mysteries surrounding the tablets of Shamash are not easily solved. For all the study and research that has been done, there are still elements of these tablets that resist clear interpretation. What secrets are they hiding? Are they merely a collection of divine laws, or do they contain something far more complex and hidden, an esoteric truth that the Sumerians were trying to communicate, one that remains out of reach? The tablets' intricate cuneiform inscriptions, their ambiguous symbols, and their connection to the divine forces of the cosmos continue to raise more questions than they answer. As we step back and reflect on the significance of these tablets, we are reminded that the world of the Sumerians was one of deep mystery and profound spiritual insight. The tablets of Shamash, like so many other relics of this ancient civilization, invite us to consider that there may be more to their history and knowledge than we can currently comprehend. Could the tablets hold the key to unlocking not just the legal and moral systems of the Sumerians, but also a deeper understanding of the cosmic order they believed in? And perhaps most intriguingly, could there still be more to discover? Hidden layers of meaning that have yet to be uncovered, waiting to shed light on the mysteries of the ancient world? The answers, it seems, may remain just out of reach, lingering like the shadows cast by the sun itself. As we continue to uncover the enigma of ancient Sumer, we now turn our attention to one of its most mysterious and elusive cities, Eridu. Located in the southernmost reaches of ancient Mesopotamia, Eridu was once considered the oldest city in the world. Established around 5400 BCE, long before many of the more famous cities of Sumer, Eridu was a thriving center of culture, religion, and innovation. Yet, despite its prominence, Eridu seems to have vanished without a trace, leaving behind only remnants of its once great glory and a multitude of unanswered questions. The disappearance of Eridu remains one of the most perplexing aspects of Sumerian history. How could such an important city fade from existence? And what, if anything, might have caused its mysterious decline? Today, the site of Eridu lies buried beneath the sands of time, a shadow of what it once was. Its ruins, now known as Tel Abu Shahrain, offer only tantalizing glimpses into the city's past. A ziggurat here, a broken statue there, a series of old walls and pathways. But there is more than just a feeling of age that hangs over Eridu. There is an unmistakable sense of mystery. How did this city, which many consider the cradle of Sumerian civilization, fall into obscurity? And what can the ruins of Eridu tell us about the larger forces at play in the rise and fall of ancient cities? Eridu's importance is not simply due to its age. It was a religious center of immense significance, often regarded as the home of the god Enki, the deity of water, wisdom, and creation. Enki was one of the most revered gods in the Sumerian pantheon, and his temple, the Abzu, was the heart of Eridu. The city was thought to have been founded by the gods themselves, and its sacred status made it the focal point of religious and spiritual life for the early Sumerians. In many ways, Eridu was seen as the center of the world, a divine city created by the gods to serve as the link between the mortal and the divine. But despite its religious and cultural importance, Eridu began to decline long before the rise of the Akkadian Empire or the fall of Sumer itself. By the time of the early dynastic period, roughly 2,000 years after its founding, Eridu had already started to fade into history. What led to this decline? Theories about the cause of Eridu's disappearance are varied, but they all share one common thread: the mystery of why such a prominent city could simply vanish. One possibility is that environmental factors played a key role. Eridu was situated near the Persian Gulf, and the Sumerians relied heavily on the water from rivers like the Euphrates and Tigris. Some scholars have suggested that the gradual shifting of the course of the rivers may have caused Eridu's once thriving port city to become stranded. As the Euphrates moved further from the city, its trade routes and access to water became more limited, causing Eridu's economic base to collapse. Flooding or changes in climate could have similarly wreaked havoc on the region, forcing the city to abandon its once vibrant existence. But environmental factors alone don't seem to explain the full extent of Eridu's decline. Eridu's religious importance should have kept it in the minds of the Sumerians, even if it lost its economic relevance. However, by the time the Akkadians and later the Babylonians rose to power, Eridu had been abandoned. There are no grand accounts of warfare or invasion associated with Eridu's disappearance. No rival city ever laid siege to it. Instead, the city's fall appears to have been a gradual process, one that unfolded in silence, leaving behind only the faint echoes of a civilization that had once been at the heart of the Sumerian world. This absence of records leads to even more speculation. Could Eridu have fallen out of favor with the gods themselves? In Sumerian culture, the gods were believed to have a direct influence on the fate of cities. Was it possible that Enki, once so central to Eridu's identity, turned away from the city? The Sumerians believed that when a city fell from divine favor, it could quickly unravel. Could the spiritual decline of Eridu have been the cause of its fall, much like the sudden disappearance of a once thriving civilization that seems to have lost its way? Some scholars have raised the possibility that Eridu's abandonment was not a sudden cataclysmic event, but rather a slow and deliberate withdrawal. Perhaps the city's spiritual and political leaders, facing the changing tides of power and influence, chose to move to a new location that promised greater security or closer proximity to growing trade routes. This would explain the disappearance of Eridu without the need for any single catastrophic event. However, even this theory raises questions. If the move was so gradual, why did it happen so uniformly? Were there no efforts to preserve the city or to maintain its role as a sacred site? Why did the once glorious city of Enki become nothing more than a forgotten relic? Further compounding the mystery is the strange inconsistency in the archaeological record. Eridu's later layers reveal little to no sign of large-scale destruction. It is as though the city simply faded away, its population dissipating, its temples crumbling to dust. The lack of a defining event, like an invasion or natural disaster, leaves us wondering what could have caused the gradual disintegration of a city once so rich with life, culture, and religion. Could the answer lie in the cosmic beliefs of the Sumerians themselves? Could the city have been abandoned by its citizens in response to some deep, existential shift in how they understood their world, their gods, or their place within it? Perhaps the mystery of Eridu's disappearance is not just a question of physical location, but a deeper reflection of the transient nature of ancient cities. Every civilization, no matter how mighty, seems to experience moments when its strength begins to wane, when the gods seem distant and the people move on. Was Eridu simply another casualty of time, a city that could not hold on to the power it had once enjoyed? The city of Eridu lies silent beneath the sands, its secrets seemingly locked away forever. But the questions surrounding its disappearance continue to stir the minds of scholars and mystery seekers alike. What caused Eridu to fade into obscurity? Was it a slow and deliberate decline? Or was there something more at play? Something that remains hidden beneath the surface of the earth, waiting to be uncovered? As we stand before the ruins of Eridu, we are left with more questions than answers, pondering the true reasons behind the disappearance of the world's first city. The story of Eridu, it seems, is one that has yet to be fully told. Its mysteries, shrouded in time, invite us to look deeper into the past, and perhaps to question just how much of ancient history remains to be discovered. After exploring the slow unraveling of Eridu, we now find ourselves drawn to another pivotal symbol in the ancient Sumerian world, one whose echoes stretch far beyond the borders of Mesopotamia and into the realms of legend and mystery, the Tower of Babel. While the tale of the tower is most commonly associated with the biblical narrative, the roots of this story stretch deep into Sumerian mythology. Some believe that the Tower of Babel, as described in the Bible, may have been inspired by the Ziggurats of ancient Sumer, and specifically by a structure that once loomed large in the heart of Sumerian civilization. Imagine, if you will, a vast temple complex reaching toward the heavens, its towering form rising above the city of Babylon, or possibly Eridu, or even Nippur. This was the Ziggurat, a multi-tiered step pyramid that served as a temple for the gods. The most famous of these, the Ziggurat of still stands in partial ruins today, offering a glimpse of the grand scale that these structures once commanded. But within the layers of these imposing structures lay not just physical materials, stone, brick, and clay, but something far more profound: the symbolism of the divine connection between the heavens and the earth. In Sumerian cosmology, the ziggurat was the ultimate symbol of that connection. It was more than just a temple. It was the very axis mundi, the center of the world. The gods, who resided in the heavens, were believed to descend to earth to receive offerings from the people. The Ziggurats' towering structure was a visual manifestation of this celestial order, meant to bridge the gap between the divine and the mortal. But the symbolism of the Ziggurat, and of the Tower of Babel specifically, carries deeper, more enigmatic meanings that reach beyond religious architecture. The idea of building a tower that reached into the heavens is, in itself, a powerful symbol. The ancient Sumerians, with their advanced understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, may have seen the ziggurat as more than just a religious monument. To them, it represented mankind's eternal pursuit of knowledge, of transcending earthly limitations and seeking to touch the divine. But what happens when this ambition reaches too far? The myth of the Tower of Babel offers a poignant warning. To reach the heavens is to risk angering the gods themselves. It is in this context that we find ourselves wondering, could the Tower of Babel myth be more than just a symbolic story? Could there have been an actual, monumental structure in Sumer, one whose very height and complexity served as a challenge to divine authority? The ancient Sumerians were no strangers to grand architectural projects, and their ziggurats were already impressive feats of engineering. Yet, as the myth of Babel suggests, there may have been a moment when the line between human ambition and divine power became dangerously blurred. The story of Babel, as told in the Bible, describes how humanity, united by a single language, decided to build a tower so high that it would reach the heavens. But in their arrogance, the people defied the natural order and the will of the gods. In response, the gods scattered them across the earth and confused their language, creating a fractured world of diverse cultures and tongues. This myth, though it has its roots in the Hebrew tradition, shares striking parallels with older Sumerian narratives, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, which also explores themes of divine intervention, human pride, and the limits of mortal ambition. Some scholars suggest that the Tower of Babel was, in fact, inspired by the Ziggurats of Sumer. These towering structures, with their multi-level platforms, may have appeared as an earthly embodiment of humanity's desire to transcend its limitations. If we consider the possibility that the Ziggurats themselves were seen as gateways to the divine, then it's easy to understand how such a tower, whether real or metaphorical, could be viewed as an affront to the gods. There is another layer of symbolism that may be at play here, one that ties the Tower of Babel to a much older, more esoteric tradition. In Sumerian cosmology, the gods were not only powerful beings, but they were also the guardians of secret knowledge. This knowledge, often hidden from human eyes, was thought to contain the keys to the universe's mysteries, the understanding of the stars, the nature of life and death, and the very essence of creation. Could the Tower of Babel symbolize a deeper attempt to access this forbidden knowledge? After exploring the slow unraveling of Eridu, we now find ourselves drawn to another pivotal symbol in the ancient Sumerian world, one whose echoes stretch far beyond the borders of Mesopotamia and into the realms of legend and mystery, the Tower of Babel. While the tale of the tower is most commonly associated with the biblical narrative, the roots of this story stretch deep into Sumerian mythology. Some believe that the Tower of Babel, as described in the Bible, may have been inspired by the ziggurats of ancient Sumer, and specifically by a structure that once loomed large in the heart of Sumerian civilization. Imagine, if you will, a vast temple complex reaching toward the heavens, its towering form rising above the city of Babylon, or possibly Eridu, or even Nippur. This was the ziggurat, a multi-tiered step pyramid that served as a temple for the gods. The most famous of these, the Ziggurat of still stands in partial ruins today, offering a glimpse of the grand scale that these structures once commanded. But within the layers of these imposing structures lay not just physical materials, stone, brick, and clay, but something far more profound: the symbolism of the divine connection between the heavens and the earth. In Sumerian cosmology, the ziggurat was the ultimate symbol of that connection. It was more than just a temple. It was the very axis mundi, the center of the world. The gods, who resided in the heavens, were believed to descend to earth to receive offerings from the people. The ziggurat's towering structure was a visual manifestation of this celestial order, meant to bridge the gap between the divine and the mortal. But the symbolism of the ziggurat, and of the Tower of Babel specifically, carries deeper, more enigmatic meanings that reach beyond religious architecture. The idea of building a tower that reached into the heavens is, in itself, a powerful symbol. The ancient Sumerians, with their advanced understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, may have seen the ziggurat as more than just a religious monument. To them, it represented mankind's eternal pursuit of knowledge, of transcending earthly limitations and seeking to touch the divine. But what happens when this ambition reaches too far? The myth of the Tower of Babel offers a poignant warning. To reach the heavens is to risk angering the gods themselves. It is in this context that we find ourselves wondering, could the Tower of Babel myth be more than just a symbolic story? Could there have been an actual, monumental structure in Sumer, one whose very height and complexity served as a challenge to divine authority? The ancient Sumerians were no strangers to grand architectural projects, and their ziggurats were already impressive feats of engineering. Yet, as the myth of Babel suggests, there may have been a moment when the line between human ambition and divine power became dangerously blurred. The story of Babel, as told in the Bible, describes how humanity, united by a single language, decided to build a tower so high that it would reach the heavens. But in their arrogance, the people defied the natural order and the will of the gods. In response, the gods scattered them across the earth and confused their language, creating a fractured world of diverse cultures and tongues. This myth, though it has its roots in the Hebrew tradition, shares striking parallels with older Sumerian narratives, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, which also explores themes of divine intervention, human pride, and the limits of mortal ambition. Some scholars suggest that the Tower of Babel was, in fact, inspired by the ziggurats of Sumer. These towering structures, with their multi-level platforms, may have appeared as an earthly embodiment of humanity's desire to transcend its limitations. If we consider the possibility that the ziggurats themselves were seen as gateways to the divine, then it's easy to understand how such a tower, whether real or metaphorical, could be viewed as an affront to the gods. There is another layer of symbolism that may be at play here, one that ties the Tower of Babel to a much older, more esoteric tradition. In Sumerian cosmology, the gods were not only powerful beings, but they were also the guardians of secret knowledge. This knowledge, often hidden from human eyes, was thought to contain the keys to the universe's mysteries, the understanding of the stars, the nature of life and death, and the very essence of creation. Could the Tower of Babel symbolize a deeper attempt to access this forbidden knowledge? As we move through the labyrinth of Sumerian mysteries, one figure stands out with an enigmatic aura, commanding both reverence and fear across the ancient world. His name was Enlil. Often depicted as the mighty god of air, wind, and storms, Enlil was more than just a deity. He was the embodiment of supreme power and divine authority. But behind his role as a ruler of the heavens lies a deeper mystery. Enlil's influence was not confined to myth alone. He appeared in texts, temples, and stories that reveal a complex relationship between the Sumerians and the divine, a relationship that hints at something far greater and possibly far more ancient than mere legend. The Sumerians believed that Enlil was a god who governed not just the skies, but the very fate of humanity. In the ancient city of Nippur, one of the most important religious centers of Sumer, Enlil's name echoed through the halls of great ziggurats. There, at the Enlil temple, He was worshipped as a god who could change the course of rivers, shape the land, and dictate the cycles of nature. His presence was felt in every grain of wheat, in every storm that shook the earth, and in every decree that determined the lives of kings and commoners alike. Enlil's power was not only spiritual, it was political as well. The Sumerians believed that the legitimacy of their kings rested upon their divine favor. Enlil was said to choose the king, granting him the right to rule, and more ominously, he had the power to withdraw that favor. But what makes Enlil such a compelling figure is not just his role in Sumerian religion. The stories surrounding him hint at something far deeper, something that touches on the very nature of ancient power. Enlil's story is filled with contradictions. He was both a benevolent protector and a wrathful judge, able to offer blessings of fertility and prosperity one moment, and send floods to destroy entire civilizations the next. In the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth, Enlil is portrayed as a god who can shape the fate of the world with a single command. His connection to divine authority, his control over the natural world, and his direct involvement in human affairs make him a figure of both awe and fear. But Enlil's role in Sumerian society was not limited to the realm of myth and ritual. As with many gods in the ancient world, the Sumerians may have attributed real-world phenomena to his influence. Could the Sumerians have believed that Enlil's powers extended beyond the divine and into the realm of advanced technology or knowledge? The Sumerians were an incredibly advanced civilization, with deep knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. Their achievements in these fields suggest that they may have been in possession of knowledge that extended far beyond their time. Could Enlil, as the god of air and storm, be more than just a metaphorical figure? Could he have represented a lost understanding of natural forces or ancient technology that the Sumerians considered divine? In texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Atrahasis, Enlil plays a pivotal role in the destruction of humanity, often using floods or storms to punish or cleanse the earth. But these stories may also hint at something more than a divine judgment. Could these catastrophes, told and retold through centuries of myth, actually reflect a much older history? Could Enlil's storms be metaphors for catastrophic events brought about by forces far greater than simple natural disasters? Some fringe theories suggest that these events might have been the result of advanced, possibly extraterrestrial technology that the Sumerians misinterpreted as divine wrath. Could Enlil have been a representation of this otherworldly power? Furthermore, Enlil's association with the wind and air may have hinted at a deeper understanding of atmospheric or even energy-based phenomena. Could the Sumerians have known of technologies that allowed Tahem to harness the forces of nature in ways that we can scarcely comprehend today? Could Enlil have represented a key to understanding the lost technologies of ancient civilizations, whose secrets were hidden in plain sight, encoded in the very myths they passed down? This connection between Enlil and ancient technology has been the subject of much speculation. Some theorists suggest that the advanced knowledge possessed by the Sumerians, particularly in their understanding of the stars, cycles of the earth, and geometry, was not entirely their own, but was gifted to them by more advanced beings. The gods, like Enlil, were not merely supernatural entities, but were, in fact, the bearers of forbidden knowledge. Could the Sumerians, through their reverence for Enlil, have been in contact with these beings, whose technology was so advanced that it was indistinguishable from divine power? The idea of ancient contact with extraterrestrial beings is a popular theory among those who believe that humanity's early history is not entirely of earthly origin. Enlil's role as a god of storms, wind, and air, forces that, in modern science, we can manipulate only through sophisticated technology, raises the question of whether the Sumerians had access to knowledge far beyond their time. Still, there is no clear evidence to support these theories. and mainstream scholars tend to view Enlil's stories as symbolic representations of natural forces, rather than the reflections of ancient technologies. Yet, the very fact that Enlil held such sway over the Sumerian world, shaping the fates of rulers and the survival of cities, speaks to the importance of understanding his true role. Was he simply a mythological figure? Or could he have been the personification of real, tangible power? What remains unresolved in the story of Enlil is the question of how far his influence truly reached. Was he, as the Sumerians believed, simply a god who ruled over the elements and humanity's fate? Or was he the representative of something much more profound, an ancient knowledge or technology that gave him dominion over the earth? If Enlil's story is not just the tale of a god, but the key to understanding lost ancient technologies or knowledge, then his mystery is far from solved. As we continue our journey into the heart of Sumerian civilization, Enlil's shadow looms large. His presence in myth, his connection to the elements, and his control over life and death force us to reconsider our understanding of ancient power. And as with so many other elements of Sumerian mythology, we are left with a haunting question. Was Enlil truly a god, or was he the messenger of a power far greater and far older than we can yet comprehend? As we move deeper into the heart of ancient Sumer, there is one city that stands out, not only for its size and wealth, but for its spiritual significance. This city, Nippur, was considered the religious center of Sumer, the place where the gods themselves were said to reside. It is here that the Sumerians believed the divine will was directly communicated to their kings, priests, and people. But behind the sacred rituals and towering temples, there are mysteries that continue to elude our understanding. Puzzles tied to Nippur's religious role, its connection to cosmic forces, and its possible link to advanced knowledge that we have yet to fully comprehend. Nippur was located in the southern region of Mesopotamia, strategically positioned near the banks of the Euphrates River. The city was known for its grand ziggurat, a massive stepped pyramid-like structure that reached towards the heavens. The ziggurat, dedicated to Enlil, the god of wind and air, was not merely an architectural wonder. It was the center of religious life, where priests and kings would ascend to commune with the divine. Visitors and worshippers came from all parts of Sumer to offer sacrifices and seek divine guidance. It was said that the air around the ziggurat shimmered with the weight of divine presence, as if the walls themselves were infused with power. But Nippur was more than just a religious hub. It was the place where some of the most sacred and important texts of Sumerian religion were composed, copied, and preserved. The Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth that would later influence the Abrahamic religions, has its roots in the religious traditions of Nippur. This text and others like it were written in the city's great libraries, places where scribes would carefully etch the stories of gods, kings, and cosmic battles onto clay tablets. It was in these libraries that the Sumerians began to weave together the complex tapestry of their understanding of the universe, its origins, and its ultimate fate. At the heart of Nippur's religious significance was the belief that it was the center of the world, a cosmic nexus where the heavens and earth met. Nippur was considered the gateway to the divine realm, a place where humans could make contact with the gods. In Sumerian thought, the gods were not distant or remote. They were intimately involved in the lives of the people. They controlled the fate of cities, the course of rivers, the harvests of crops, and the health of the king. This belief gave Nippur a unique status, not just as a physical location, but as a spiritual axis that connected all things, earthly and divine. In this sense, Nippur was the epicenter of Sumerian cosmology. But what makes Nippur's role in Sumerian religion even more intriguing is the mystery that surrounds its continued importance throughout the centuries. Despite the rise and fall of various other powerful Sumerian cities like Ur, Lagash, and Uruk, Nippur remained the religious heart of Sumer for over 2 millennia. Even when political power shifted to other city-states, Nippur retained its sacred status. The question arises, why did this one city remain so important for so long? What was it about Nippur that made it so enduringly significant in the Sumerian worldview? Some scholars suggest that Nippur's continued influence may have been due to its connection to ancient knowledge that was passed down from earlier civilizations, perhaps even from a time long before the Sumerians themselves. Nippur, after all, was a city where sacred knowledge was not only worshipped but studied, preserved, and transmitted. It was a repository of ancient wisdom, a place where the mysteries of the cosmos were inscribed on clay tablets. Could these texts have contained knowledge far beyond the reach of the Sumerians themselves? Some theorists posit that the Sumerians were in possession of knowledge, perhaps even technology, that was so advanced it was indistinguishable from divine power. Could the priests of Nippur have understood something about the cosmos that the rest of the world did not? Could they have been privy to knowledge that shaped not only their religious practices but their understanding of the universe and its underlying laws? This idea leads us into the realm of speculation and fringe theories, which suggest that Nippur may have been more than just a spiritual center. Some have suggested that Nippur was a focal point for the study of astronomy and astrology, fields in which the Sumerians were remarkably advanced. The city's priests, known for their deep understanding of the stars, may have used this knowledge not only for religious ceremonies, but for practical purposes, such as predicting the flooding of the Euphrates or determining the best time to plant crops. Some theorists have even speculated that Nippur could have been the site of a lost astronomical observatory, an ancient center of study that allowed the Sumerians to map the stars with unprecedented accuracy. What is most fascinating about Nippur, however, is its connection to the concept of divine authority. As the religious heart of Sumer, Nippur was also the place where the will of the gods was interpreted. It was here that the legitimacy of kings was confirmed, that sacred rituals were performed to ensure the city's prosperity, and that the fate of the Sumerian people was sealed. The Ziggurat, as the physical and spiritual center of Nippur, was where the divine and earthly realms met. It is said that the gods, through the priests, spoke to the people of Nippur and granted them the wisdom to govern the land. The question, however, is whether this was a true divine communication, or if it was the result of a hidden ancient understanding of nature, an understanding that may have been masked in religious symbolism. In the centuries since Nippur's decline, many of its mysteries have remained buried beneath the sands of time. The city was abandoned long before the fall of Sumerian civilization, and its ziggurat was eventually left in ruins. But the questions surrounding Nippur's true purpose, its role as the seat of divine power, its possible connections to lost knowledge, and its place in the larger puzzle of ancient Sumerian society, remain as unanswered as the city's fate. Could Nippur have been more than just the center of religious ritual? Was it a repository of knowledge so vast and mysterious that it is still beyond our grasp? Or was it a place where the divine and human worlds met in ways we have yet to fully comprehend? As we continue to explore the enigmatic legacy of Sumer, Nippur stands as a reminder that even the most sacred and revered places may still hold secrets that perhaps are waiting to be uncovered. As we leave behind the sacred streets of Nippur, we turn our gaze toward another monumental aspect of Sumerian civilization, the Ziggurats. These towering structures, with their stepped platforms rising toward the heavens, stand as some of the most impressive architectural feats of the ancient world. The largest and most famous of these ziggurats were found in cities like Ur, Eridu, and Babylon, but it is in Sumer that their story truly begins. But what were these towering monuments truly meant for? Were they merely grand temples to honor the gods, or were they something more, perhaps even advanced power plants, the likes of which we can barely comprehend today? the Ziggurats were a defining feature of Sumerian cities. Each city-state constructed its own ziggurat, the most notable being the Great Ziggurat of standing tall with a series of massive mud brick terraces that seemed to reach upward in defiance of the earth. This colossal structure was dedicated to the moon god Nana, also known as Sin, and it was said to house the god's earthly representative, the high priest or priestess, who served as the intermediary between the divine and human realms. The ziggurat's primary function was religious, as it served as a platform for rituals and ceremonies. But there is something deeply fascinating about these structures that continues to captivate modern minds. The sheer scale of these ziggurats, sometimes reaching up to 200 feet in height, suggests a purpose that transcended mere worship. The amount of labor and materials required to build such a monument would have been staggering, yet they were constructed not just as places of ritual but as enduring symbols of divine authority. But was there more to these monumental structures than meets the eye? Mainstream archaeology tells us that the ziggurats were designed as temples, places where the gods would descend to earth. The priests and kings who inhabited these cities believed that the ziggurats were the literal stairways to heaven, linking the earthly realm with the divine. The rituals performed atop these grand structures were intended to ensure that the gods remained pleased and that the people of Sumer would prosper. The elevated position of the ziggurat, towering above the surrounding city, reinforced this idea of a divine connection. In this light, the ziggurats were not just temples, they were sacred symbols of power, authority, and the close bond between the divine and the mortal. However, some researchers and theorists have suggested that the ziggurats may have been more than just religious edifices. Theories have emerged proposing that these ancient structures may have had a more utilitarian role, one that served an advanced technological function. The most intriguing of these ideas revolves around the theory that the ziggurats may have been a kind of ancient power plant. Could the towering height of the ziggurats, with their multiple platforms, have been used to harness some form of energy, solar, electromagnetic, or even something more esoteric, that was central to Sumerian civilization's development? One of the most commonly discussed theories is the notion that the ziggurats may have been designed to generate or harness electrical power. Proponents of this theory point to the precise construction of these structures and the fact that they were often built on elevated ground, suggesting they may have had a role in collecting or channeling energy from natural sources. While there is no direct evidence to support such a claim, the idea that the Sumerians may have possessed a form of advanced technology, knowledge that was hidden in plain sight behind religious symbolism, remains an alluring possibility. Could the ziggurats have been equipped with a form of electrical circuitry, or did they serve as energy conductors of some kind? The argument for this theory also hinges on the remarkable precision of Sumerian engineering. The Sumerians were able to construct large and complex structures with such accuracy that it is difficult to imagine they were simply focused on religious symbolism. Their knowledge of mathematics and geometry was advanced, and they had a deep understanding of the natural world. Some theorists suggest that this might not just be coincidence, but rather evidence that the Sumerians were aware of the energy-producing potential of natural forces. If they had access to such knowledge, could the ziggurats have been built as a means to tap into unseen forces? Forces that we have yet to fully understand? Another speculation posits that the ziggurats were connected to advanced forms of communication, perhaps even to early forms of radio or signaling technology. The stepped design of the ziggurats, with their multiple layers, may have served as a kind of antenna to transmit or receive signals across vast distances. Given the strategic importance of these ziggurats within the city-state, it is conceivable that they could have functioned as some kind of communication hub, facilitating the exchange of knowledge or even enabling contact with other distant civilizations. Could the Sumerians have had access to a kind of technology that allowed them to communicate in ways we cannot easily explain? Of course, these ideas remain speculative, and mainstream historians and archaeologists typically dismiss them as unlikely. Most believe the Ziggurats were solely religious structures designed for ceremonial purposes. Still, the absence of direct evidence, along with the undeniable mystery surrounding their purpose, leaves room for speculation. What if the Ziggurats weren't just temples, but something more? What if their true function was deliberately obscured, hidden behind layers of mythology and religious tradition? The mystery deepens when we consider the eventual abandonment of these monumental structures. By the time of the rise of the later empires, such as Babylon and Assyria, the Ziggurats were no longer the focal points of Sumerian cities. Their purpose seemed to have faded, and many of them fell into disrepair, slowly eroded by time and neglect. Was this a sign that the knowledge required to maintain or harness the power of these Ziggurats was lost? Or did the power once attributed to these structures fade for other, more mysterious reasons? The enigma of the Ziggurats remains unresolved. Were they grand monuments to the gods, as traditional Sumerian belief holds? Or were they something more? Complex, advanced structures that played a role in the Sumerians' mastery of the world around them? And if they were advanced power plants, what does that say about the level of knowledge the Sumerians had, or perhaps lost, centuries before us? As we move forward in our exploration of the Sumerian mysteries, the Ziggurats continue to stand as silent sentinels, their true purpose perhaps still hidden beneath the shifting sands of time. They call to us, asking us to question the boundaries between myth and reality, between religion and technology. What did the Sumerians truly know, and what remains hidden, waiting to be uncovered? As we turn the pages of history, we find ourselves in the ancient city of Nippur, one of the most significant centers of Sumerian civilization. Beneath the dust and ruins of this once glorious city lies an enigma, a collection of clay tablets inscribed with symbols and numbers that continue to bewilder scholars and mathematicians to this day. These Sumerian mathematical texts are not just artifacts, they are keys to unlocking a profound mystery about the origins of human knowledge. But what do these texts truly reveal? And how did the Sumerians arrive at such a sophisticated understanding of mathematics? In the dimly lit rooms of museums, scholars have pored over these ancient tablets, carefully deciphering the cuneiform script that marks Sumerian mathematics. The mathematical texts are remarkably diverse. Some are simple calculations, others complex geometric formulas. They include multiplication tables, division, fractions, and even advanced techniques for calculating areas and volumes. What stands out, however, is the fact that the Sumerians did not use a base 10 system like we do today. Instead, they used a base 60 system, an oddity that raises questions about their understanding of numbers and the very nature of mathematical logic. The base 60 system, which is still used to measure time and angles, seems perfectly suited to the practical needs of ancient Mesopotamian society. It allows for divisions of time that are both precise and convenient: 12 hours in a day, 60 minutes in an hour, and 60 seconds in a minute. Yet this choice of base has always been something of a mystery. Why did the Sumerians settle on the number 60? Why not a simpler, more intuitive system based on 10 or 12? Was there something inherently special about the number 60, or was there a deeper, more mysterious reason behind its selection? The answer to this question may lie in the very design of their number system. The Sumerians were not just concerned with simple arithmetic. They were driven by an urgent need to understand the cosmos. Their number system was intricately linked to their observations of the stars and the heavens. The number 60 is divisible by many factors: 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, and 12, making it a practical choice for dividing the sky and measuring celestial events. But even with this practical explanation, the base 60 system remains curious, especially considering the sheer complexity of the mathematics involved. Many of the surviving mathematical texts, particularly those from the city of Nippur, suggest that the Sumerians were not merely using numbers for mundane purposes. Their mathematics was deeply intertwined with their understanding of the cosmos. The Sumerians were keen astronomers, and they used their number system to track the movement of celestial bodies. Some scholars believe that the Sumerians' advanced mathematical knowledge was linked to their observation of the night sky, knowledge passed down through generations of stargazers. But even this theory leaves us with more questions than answers. As we begin to peel back the layers of Sumerian mathematics, we find ourselves confronted with another puzzle: the extraordinary precision with which the Sumerians calculated astronomical distances and the cycles of celestial bodies. In their mathematical texts, the Sumerians demonstrated a remarkable ability to calculate the length of a year, the orbits of planets, and the timing of eclipses. Their calculations were so accurate that, in some cases, they came within a few days of modern astronomical measurements. How could they have known such things without the telescopes and advanced tools that we have today? One theory that has been proposed to explain the precision of Sumerian astronomical knowledge is that they had access to knowledge far beyond their time, knowledge that was passed down by advanced beings or even extraterrestrial visitors. Some fringe researchers have suggested that the Sumerians' mathematical system could have been influenced by alien contact. They point to the Anunnaki, a group of deities in Sumerian mythology who were said to have come from the heavens and imparted knowledge to the Sumerians. According to this theory, the Anunnaki were not just gods, but beings from another world who possessed advanced scientific knowledge, including sophisticated mathematical concepts. Could it be that the Sumerians' extraordinary understanding of mathematics and astronomy was the result of extraterrestrial intervention? While this theory is speculative and not widely accepted by mainstream scholars, it does raise an intriguing question. Could the Sumerians have had access to knowledge that we are only now beginning to understand? Were their mathematical texts the product of human ingenuity alone, or did they reflect a deeper, more profound connection to the cosmos? Another fascinating aspect of Sumerian mathematics is its apparent connection to geometry and sacred proportions. The Sumerians were not just calculating numbers, they were using numbers to measure and understand the very fabric of the universe. Their temples, ziggurats, and city layouts were designed according to precise geometric principles, many of which are encoded in their mathematical texts. These geometric principles are based on ratios and proportions that seem to reflect a deep understanding of the natural world. For example, some of the Sumerian texts contain calculations related to the golden ratio, a mathematical constant that appears throughout nature and has been recognized for its aesthetic and structural properties. How did the Sumerians arrive at these proportions, which were not fully understood by Western science until much later? Could it be that the Sumerians were tapping into an ancient knowledge of geometry and mathematics that transcended their time? Some researchers have suggested that their understanding of these proportions could have been passed down from an even earlier civilization, one that was far more advanced than the Sumerians themselves. Others have speculated that the Sumerians may have had access to a form of universal mathematics, a knowledge system that connects all cultures and civilizations across time and space. But what if the Sumerians were not just using mathematics to measure the physical world? What if they were also using it to tap into something more intangible, a deeper spiritual understanding of the universe? The Sumerians saw their world as deeply interconnected with the heavens. They believed that the gods, the stars, and the forces of nature were all linked in a cosmic dance, and mathematics was the key to understanding this connection. Could it be that their number system, with its base 60 structure and harmonic ratios, was a tool not just for measuring the world, but for understanding the very nature of existence? As we continue to explore the mysteries of Sumerian mathematics, the questions only multiply. Was their number system truly a product of human ingenuity? Or was it the result of a higher, more mysterious intelligence? How did the Sumerians come to possess such an advanced understanding of the cosmos? And what does this tell us about the true origins of human knowledge? And perhaps most importantly, what other secrets lie hidden in the mathematical texts of Sumer, waiting to be uncovered? The Sumerians left behind a legacy of mathematical brilliance that continues to resonate with us today. Their number system, their geometric principles, and their understanding of the cosmos provide a tantalizing glimpse into the mind of one of the most advanced civilizations of the ancient world. But as we continue to delve into their mathematical texts, we are reminded that some mysteries may never be fully solved. The deeper we dig, the more questions emerge, each one leading us further down a path of intrigue and discovery. As we continue to explore the mysteries that have baffled scholars for centuries, we find ourselves once again looking up, this time toward the night sky. The Sumerians, whose civilization arose in the fertile plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers more than 5,000 years ago, were among the first to chart the stars. Their understanding of the cosmos was profound, detailed, and in some cases, eerily accurate. But how did they manage to map the stars so many millennia before the advent of modern telescopes? And what secrets might their ancient star charts still be hiding? The most striking aspect of Sumerian astronomy is the sophistication of their star maps. They didn't simply track the movements of stars and planets. They mapped the heavens with a precision that seems beyond the technological capabilities of their time. In the heart of Mesopotamia, in places like Uruk, Nippur, and Babylon, the Sumerians established elaborate systems to observe the night sky. They built temples and ziggurats that were aligned with celestial events, reflecting a deep understanding of the movements of the stars. What was it about the night sky that so captivated them? The answer lies in their religious and cultural worldview. For the Sumerians, the stars were not merely distant points of light. They were celestial gods, each with its own personality and influence on the fate of humanity. The gods of Sumer, including Anu, Enlil, and Eanna, were closely associated with specific planets and constellations. The heavens were thought to be a reflection of divine will, and understanding the movement of the stars was seen as essential to understanding the will of the gods. Astronomical observations, then, were as much about religion as they were about science. This belief in the power of the stars is clearly reflected in the Sumerians' meticulous records of celestial phenomena, from eclipses to planetary motions. One of the most remarkable aspects of Sumerian astronomy is their use of a lunisolar calendar, a system that was used to track both the moon's cycles and the position of the sun. This calendar, which combined lunar and solar elements, was far more advanced than many early systems of timekeeping. It allowed the Sumerians to predict the phases of the moon with incredible accuracy, and it is believed that they used this knowledge for religious rituals, agriculture, and even warfare. But the lunisolar calendar was only the beginning of the Sumerians' astronomical achievements. They also created some of the earliest known star catalogs, detailed lists of stars and constellations that were used for navigation and ceremonial purposes. These star catalogs were not just lists of stars. They were maps of the heavens, created with a precision that would not be rivaled for thousands of years. Some of these star maps have survived, preserved on clay tablets, and they reveal a picture of the night sky that is both familiar and strange. While the Sumerians clearly identified many of the same stars that we recognize today, such as the bright stars of the Orion constellation, they also had names for stars and constellations that have long since faded from our collective memory. These lost constellations, some of which are said to have been associated with gods and divine events, remain a tantalizing mystery. What is especially puzzling is that the Sumerians didn't just observe the stars. they seemed to understand the cycles of celestial bodies with extraordinary precision. The Sumerians were able to predict the motions of the planets, and their star maps show evidence of complex astronomical phenomena such as the precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that takes 26,000 years to complete a full cycle. This knowledge was not rediscovered until modern astronomers made the same observations thousands of years later. How could the Sumerians have known about the precession of the equinoxes, or the exact position of planets that we now track with high-powered telescopes? This is a question that has intrigued researchers for decades. Was it simply a matter of painstaking observation over generations? Or did the Sumerians have access to knowledge far beyond their time? One theory that has been proposed is that the Sumerians were in contact with advanced civilizations, whether extraterrestrial beings or ancient societies with far more advanced technology than we previously believed. Some suggest that the Sumerians' ability to map the stars with such precision could have been the result of knowledge handed down from otherworldly visitors, possibly the Anunnaki, the deities of Sumerian mythology who were said to have come from the heavens. The idea that extraterrestrial beings may have influenced Sumerian astronomy is an alluring one, but it remains speculative, with little concrete evidence to support it. Alternatively, some scholars propose that the Sumerians may have had access to a lost, ancient tradition of astronomical knowledge that was passed down from earlier civilizations. There is evidence to suggest that the Sumerians were not the first to chart the stars. Ancient cultures, such as the Babylonians and the Egyptians, also had sophisticated astronomical systems. It is possible that the Sumerians inherited their astronomical knowledge from these civilizations, or from even older cultures that have since vanished. Could the Sumerians have built upon this ancient knowledge to develop their own sophisticated methods of star mapping? Yet the question remains: how did they arrive at such knowledge without the tools we take for granted today? The Sumerians didn't have telescopes, nor did they have the modern scientific methods that we use to study the stars. Instead, they relied on naked eye observations, carefully watching the sky for patterns, movements, and cycles. But their observations were not random. They were deliberate and systematic, suggesting an intricate understanding of celestial mechanics. Their star charts were based on months and years of careful observation, which raises the possibility that they were able to see patterns in the stars that were invisible to the casual observer. Could it be that they simply possessed a heightened sensitivity to the sky, allowing them to perceive things that most of us would overlook? One of the most enduring mysteries of Sumerian astronomy is their apparent ability to predict celestial events, such as eclipses. The Sumerians used a technique called the Saros cycle to predict eclipses, a cycle that involves a period of approximately 18 years, 11 days, and 8 hours. This cycle, which the Sumerians were able to calculate, allowed them to predict the occurrence of lunar and solar eclipses with remarkable accuracy. How did they come to understand such a complex astronomical pattern? Was it simply through careful observation, or was there some other, more profound method at work? As we continue to study the ancient star maps and astronomical records of the Sumerians, we are left with more questions than answers. Their knowledge of the cosmos was extraordinary, but its origins remain elusive. Did the Sumerians possess a scientific understanding of the heavens that was far ahead of its time, or did they have access to something more mysterious? Perhaps knowledge passed down from an ancient civilization, or even from beings beyond our world? As we peer into the dark expanse of the night sky, we are reminded that the mysteries of the ancient world are far from being solved. The stars above us have always been a source of wonder and inspiration, but for the Sumerians, they were more than just distant lights. They were the keys to understanding the divine order of the universe. And perhaps, buried in the ancient texts and star maps of Sumer, there is still a piece of the puzzle waiting to be uncovered. the Sumerians looked to the stars for guidance, and in their observations, they may have left us a legacy of cosmic knowledge that we have yet to fully comprehend. What might we still discover hidden in the constellations, waiting to illuminate the path to deeper understanding? Nestled deep within the southern reaches of Mesopotamia, once stood the legendary city of Ur. Known for its immense wealth, intricate urban planning, and architectural marvels, it was a beacon of Sumerian culture and power. The ruins of Ur today still evoke a sense of mystery, its once grand ziggurat rising from the desert like a forgotten monument to a lost era. As one of the most influential cities in Sumerian history, Ur's sudden decline and eventual disappearance have puzzled historians and archaeologists for centuries. How did such a prosperous and powerful civilization vanish from the map? Was it a natural disaster, a war, or perhaps a more mysterious force at play? Ur, in its prime, was a thriving metropolis, strategically located near the mouth of the Euphrates River. It was a hub of commerce, culture, and religion, serving as the capital of the third dynasty of Ur, under the reign of the famed king Ur-Nammu, around 2100 BCE. The city was home to the great Ziggurat of Ur, a monumental structure dedicated to the moon god Nana, which still stands as one of the most iconic remnants of Sumerian civilization. The walls of Ur's palaces and temples were adorned with intricate carvings that depicted the city's splendor, offering glimpses of daily life, religious rituals, and even military conquests. But despite the city's apparent prosperity, its eventual decline remains shrouded in mystery. The last known records of Ur date to around 2000 BCE, a time when the city's influence was beginning to wane. Yet, by the time of its eventual abandonment, the reason for its fall was unclear. Was it due to the shifting of river channels, which gradually made the city's location less strategic for trade? Did environmental changes, such as desertification, contribute to its downfall? These are some of the more plausible theories, scientifically grounded and widely accepted, but they leave much unexplained. The hypothesis of environmental degradation suggests that as the riverbed of the Euphrates shifted, Ur's water supply became more unreliable, affecting both agriculture and trade. The decline of vital resources could have forced the city's inhabitants to gradually abandon their homes in search of more fertile or accessible land. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of a once thriving urban center that began to slowly fade as the river moved, and some experts argue that Ur's collapse was more a slow erosion of its economic and strategic advantages rather than a sudden catastrophe. Still, this doesn't account for the rapidity with which the city's grandeur seemed to disappear, especially given its earlier status as a powerhouse of the ancient world. Another prevailing theory points to warfare, specifically invasions from outside forces. The Sumerians had long been at odds with neighboring regions, and the city of Ur, at the height of its power, was not without its enemies. The Gudeans, a mysterious group from the Zagros Mountains, are believed to have played a role in the eventual fall of Ur during the late 3rd millennium BCE. Accounts from the time describe their invasions, yet details about their origins, culture, and motivations remain obscure. Were they responsible for sacking the city and contributing to its decline? Or were they simply one among many factors that weakened Ur over time? It's difficult to say. However, what makes Ur's disappearance even more puzzling are the more speculative theories, which lean into the realm of the unknown. Could there have been a greater, perhaps even supernatural force that contributed to the city's fall? Some have suggested that a sudden, unexplained catastrophe, possibly linked to the gods or divine punishment, played a role. The Sumerians, after all, had a deeply spiritual view of the world. In their cosmology, the gods held power over not just the fates of individuals, but entire cities and nations. A catastrophe, seen as divine retribution or wrath, might have been interpreted by the Sumerians as the ultimate cause of their city's ruin. Such theories, though lacking tangible evidence, have their place in the cultural context of the time, as the Sumerians were quick to interpret natural or political upheavals as signs of divine displeasure. Some fringe theories take this idea further, speculating that Ur's fall may have been linked to a more dramatic, even extraterrestrial event. While there is no evidence to support these ideas, it's important to recognize how deeply ingrained the concept of celestial influence was in Sumerian thought. The Sumerians worshipped gods who were associated with the heavens, and their myths often revolved around gods descending from the stars. Could it be that a city so central to Sumerian religious and political life, met its demise due to forces beyond human understanding? The idea of extraterrestrial involvement in ancient history, though controversial, has captured the imagination of many and finds its roots in the ancient astronaut theories that suggest advanced beings could have influenced early human civilizations. Such ideas, while speculative, open up a world of possibilities regarding what might have occurred to Another captivating theory posits that the fall of was linked to an internal collapse, triggered by a loss of faith in the Sumerian gods. According to some interpretations of ancient texts, the Sumerians believed that their gods were active participants in their world, directly influencing the fate of their people. If experienced a loss of divine favor or a shift in religious priorities, it could have led to a collective societal breakdown. The rapid abandonment of the city could then be interpreted as a result of a spiritual crisis, one that had real-world consequences for the city's infrastructure and leadership. Could the priests, kings, and people of have collectively decided that their gods had turned against them, causing them to flee or abandon the city altogether? What makes this scenario even more intriguing is the connection to other ancient cities that also vanished mysteriously. From the lost city of Atlantis to the Egyptian capital of Tanis, tales of entire civilizations vanishing under unexplained circumstances are common throughout ancient mythologies. Could demise be part of a broader pattern, one that connects seemingly unrelated events across time and space? Today, the ruins of provide us with only partial answers. The city's final decline is recorded in ancient texts, but the details remain fragmented and enigmatic. The ziggurat, which once towered above the landscape as a symbol of divine connection, still stands, though it is only a shadow of its former glory. The excavations of have uncovered temples, palaces, and private homes, but what happened to the people who once inhabited these structures remains a mystery. Did they flee in panic? Or was the fall of a slow, deliberate process? Did the city collapse under its own weight? Or was it something more supernatural or cosmic that sealed its fate? The fact that vanished so completely, leaving behind only ruins and unanswered questions, suggests that the answer is far from simple. Whether environmental, military, spiritual, or something else entirely, the mystery of disappearance continues to haunt modern historians and archaeologists. With every new discovery, we inch closer to understanding the true cause of its fall. Yet, as of today, the city of remains one of the most enduring and perplexing enigmas in the ancient world. Perhaps in time, the layers of this mystery will peel away, revealing the hidden truths about what led to the fall of one of the Sumerian world's greatest cities. But for now, disappearance invites us to contemplate the fragility of human civilization and the forces, both earthly and beyond, that shape the rise and fall of cities and empires. Could it be that there is something we have yet to uncover about fate? Something that remains hidden in the sands of time, waiting for us to finally understand? Beneath the heat of the Mesopotamian sun, the ancient Sumerian cities, such as Uruk and were alive with the clamor of bustling markets, the chants of priests in their temples, and the clashing of weapons in the training yards. The Sumerians, often credited as the cradle of civilization, were as advanced in their military endeavors as they were in their innovations of writing, law, and urban planning. Yet, while much is known about their cultural achievements, the true nature of their military prowess and the technology behind their weapons remains a compelling and somewhat elusive mystery. Picture for a moment a Sumerian battlefield. The terrain is dusty, the air thick with the scent of burning wood and iron. A battle rages between city-states, soldiers clad in armor, wielding heavy bronze swords, spears, and battle axes. At the heart of the conflict stands the iconic chariot, an early form of mechanized warfare that would define the Sumerians as formidable opponents in the ancient world. These weapons and tactics are critical to understanding how Sumerian forces not only survived, but thrived in a violent, ever-changing world. The spearheads of the Sumerians are often among the most intriguing of these discoveries. Archaeologists have unearthed finely crafted spearheads made of copper, bronze, and eventually iron, some intricately designed with ornate engravings. These weapons were not just functional, they were symbols of power and dominance. The precision with which these spearheads were forged indicates a deep understanding of metallurgy, and their use in combat underscores the Sumerians' mastery of battlefield tactics. Yet, one might wonder, where did they learn to forge such advanced weapons, and how did they develop the sophisticated techniques required to create them? In the dusty archives of ancient ruins, evidence of the Sumerian sword emerges. Long, sharp blades designed to slice through armor and flesh with deadly precision. These swords were crafted from materials like bronze and copper, and some of the most significant examples have been found in royal tombs, suggesting their importance to the elite classes of Sumerian society. What makes the swords particularly fascinating is their balance and symmetry, indicating an advanced knowledge of weapon engineering and perhaps even an understanding of ergonomics, the science of creating tools and weapons that maximize efficiency and ease of use. But the Sumerians were not limited to simple blades and spears. Their battle axes, which have been discovered in several archaeological sites, were built to cleave through shields and armor. The axes varied in design, some with heavy, broad heads meant to deliver powerful blows, while others were smaller and more agile, perfect for close combat. These axes reflect a degree of military strategy far beyond what one might expect from early civilizations. But who taught the Sumerians these advanced techniques? And were these tools designed exclusively for combat, or did they hold a deeper, more symbolic significance within Sumerian society? The weapons often bore engravings that depicted gods, heroes, and kings, reminding the warriors that their strength came from the divine. Yet, the mystery deepens when we look at the Sumerian chariots, light, agile, and capable of fast movement across the battlefield. Introduced around the early 3rd millennium BCE, these war chariots were revolutionary, dramatically altering the nature of warfare. The Sumerians were among the first to use horse-drawn chariots in battle, a technological leap that would influence military tactics for centuries. Some chariots were even designed with armor, offering the driver and archer protection from enemy attacks. But who came up with the idea of harnessing horses for battle? Was this a Sumerian invention, or did they learn from the ancient peoples to the north or east, who might have used similar techniques? And what does the sudden appearance of the chariot in Sumerian warfare say about their rapid technological advancements? Were these innovations the result of external influence, or did the Sumerians' unique geographical and cultural environment foster the development of these incredible machines of war? Chariots were not the only advance in Sumerian military technology. The siege weapons of the Sumerians were also revolutionary. Ancient texts suggest that the Sumerians used battering rams to break through enemy city walls, a tactic that would be used for centuries to come. But these early siege weapons raise a compelling question. How did the Sumerians develop such sophisticated war machines, and what drove them to create these complex devices? Were these innovations born from years of warfare and necessity, or were they inspired by something more? Many ancient civilizations relied on walls to defend their cities, but the Sumerians took this concept further. Their fortifications were a feat of engineering, massive, thick, and designed to withstand the force of battering rams and siege weapons. The question lingers: did the Sumerians develop these defensive strategies and tools on their own, or were they responding to a growing need for advanced security due to an increasing number of external threats? Was there something more to their walls than mere defense, perhaps a ritualistic or symbolic connection to their gods and ancestors? In the midst of these impressive technological feats, the Sumerians were also developing advanced armor for their soldiers. The leather and bronze armor worn by Sumerian warriors was both functional and symbolic. It's clear that the Sumerians viewed armor as more than a mere protective tool. It was also a means of displaying status and divine favor. The elite warriors of Sumer were often equipped with the finest armor and weapons, which were inscribed with symbols of the gods and kingly authority. In many ways, armor was as much a spiritual shield as it was a physical one. But the question remains: did the Sumerians see themselves as the instruments of the gods in battle, or were their weapons simply tools for survival in a harsh and unforgiving world? The symbolism behind their weapons becomes even more apparent when we consider their relationship to their kings and gods. Sargon of Akkad, one of the most famous Sumerian rulers, is depicted on several weapons and inscriptions as a divine conqueror. His weapons were seen as extensions of divine power, and his military conquests were viewed as divinely ordained. Did the Sumerians believe that their weaponry was imbued with divine power, or was it simply a way for rulers to display their authority and legitimacy? Intriguingly, Sumerian weapons weren't just tools of destruction. They were also tied to religious rituals. Some of the weapons, such as ceremonial daggers and swords, were used in religious ceremonies, suggesting that the Sumerians believed their warfare was sanctioned by the gods. But how much of the Sumerian military was driven by the desire for divine favor, and how much was driven by the practical need for defense and expansion? Did the Sumerians believe that their weapons were imbued with divine power, or was this simply a belief cultivated over generations to give their rulers and soldiers a sense of purpose and righteousness? As with many aspects of Sumerian culture, there are tantalizing gaps in our understanding. Where did their military technology come from, and what drove the Sumerians to become such formidable warriors? Some scholars speculate that their sudden advancements in weaponry were the result of external influence, possibly from neighboring civilizations. Others suggest that their military innovations were born out of necessity, developed over generations in response to constant warfare between the Sumerian city-states. Still, others have proposed that there may be something more to the story, perhaps even a cosmic influence, as suggested by the ancient astronaut theorists who believe that extraterrestrial beings may have played a role in advancing Sumerian technology. Whatever the true origins of Sumerian weaponry, one thing is certain: these tools were not merely instruments of destruction. They were symbols of divine authority, status, and power, woven deeply into the fabric of Sumerian society and religion. Their technological advances were unparalleled for their time, but the full extent of their military genius and the true origins of their weapons remain shrouded in mystery. The question lingers: what else might be hidden beneath the dust of ancient Mesopotamia, waiting to be uncovered? Could there be more to the story of the Sumerian military than we have yet imagined? The mystery, like the Sumerians themselves, endures. As the sun sets over the ruins of ancient Nippur, the quiet whispers of the past seem to linger in the air, like a distant echo of a long-forgotten age. It is here, in the heart of ancient Sumer, that the Epic of Atrahasis, one of the oldest and most enigmatic stories known to humanity, was first told. The Epic of Atrahasis is a tale that speaks of gods, floods, and the origins of humankind, but it also raises questions that have haunted scholars and historians for millennia. Was this story simply a myth, or was it a profound warning about the future of humanity itself? The tablets of Atrahasis, discovered in the 19th century, contain a narrative that has captivated researchers and laypeople alike. The story is set in a time when the gods, burdened by the labor of the humans they created, decide to destroy them through a great flood. However, the hero of the tale, Atrahasis, is forewarned by the god Enki, who tells him to build a boat and save himself, his family, and the animals. The floodwaters rise, destroying all life, but Atrahasis survives, and in the aftermath, the gods relent and make a new pact with humanity. On the surface, the Epic of Atrahasis seems like just another mythological narrative, an ancient story designed to explain the forces of nature and human existence. Yet, when we examine the text more closely, we see layers of meaning that transcend the traditional understanding of myth. Was the Epic of Atrahasis a prophetic warning about the future of humanity? Could this ancient narrative contain echoes of events that are still relevant today, or even warnings about the trajectory of our civilization? The Sumerians, like other ancient cultures, had a deep understanding of the cyclical nature of life and death. The gods in their pantheon were often capricious, their emotions swaying from favor to wrath. This relationship between the gods and humans was one of mutual dependence, but also fraught with tension. The gods created humanity to serve them, but over time, humans became a burden, too numerous, too loud, too troublesome. In the Epic of Atrahasis, we see this divine frustration manifest as a plan to wipe out humankind with a catastrophic flood. This, in many ways, mirrors the flood stories found in other ancient cultures, including the Bible's Noah's Ark and the Babylonian Epic of Gilgamesh. However, the Sumerian version offers a more intricate perspective on the relationship between humans and the divine. The Sumerian gods' decision to flood the earth as a form of divine punishment is particularly striking because it reflects a deep understanding of the balance of nature. In their view, the earth was a living, breathing entity that had to be cared for, much like the gods cared for the people. The gods' decision to destroy humanity with a flood was not simply an act of revenge, but a measure of their frustration with the imbalance created by human actions. It is almost as if the Sumerians understood that the relationship between humankind and nature could only last as long as the balance was maintained. But as we step back from the story, we begin to ask ourselves, is this ancient narrative simply a reflection of the natural cycles of civilization? Or is there something more? Could the Epic of Atrahasis be a deeper commentary on humanity's future trajectory? One that resonates with unsettling relevance even today? To answer this question, let us examine some of the broader themes woven into the Epic of Atrahasis. The central event in the narrative, the Great Flood, is an image that appears repeatedly in various cultural traditions. Floods, in many ancient civilizations, symbolized both destruction and renewal, a cleansing force that eradicated corruption or sin. But in the Sumerian version of the flood, we also see the gods' frustration with the unsustainable growth of humanity, a problem that feels eerily familiar in today's context. At the heart of the Epic of Atrahasis is a dire warning about human overpopulation and resource depletion. The gods' decision to destroy humanity stems from their belief that humans have become too numerous, creating a burden on the earth. Sound familiar? In today's world, we are facing challenges related to overpopulation, environmental degradation, and the strain we place on the planet's natural resources. The Sumerians, in their ancient wisdom, may have been offering a warning, suggesting that unchecked growth and a disregard for nature's balance could lead to disaster. But the story doesn't end with destruction. After the flood, the gods relent and make a new covenant with humanity, promising not to destroy them again. This moment of renewal and reconciliation carries profound significance. The gods offer humanity a second chance, but the terms of the agreement are clear. Humans must respect the natural order and recognize their place within it. This idea of second chances is central to the story. Just as Atrahasis is given the opportunity to repopulate the earth after the flood, so too, humanity is offered a chance to live in harmony with the earth. In this way, the epic of Atrahasis can be seen not only as a story of divine punishment, but also as a reflection on the potential for human redemption. It suggests that even in the face of disaster, there is the possibility for recovery and renewal, if humanity learns from its past mistakes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. But this, of course, raises the question: has humanity learned enough from its past mistakes to avoid a future catastrophe? Are we heeding the warnings embedded in ancient myths, or are we repeating the same mistakes that led to the downfall of previous civilizations? The connection between Atrahasis and the fate of modern humanity is made even clearer when we consider the role of the gods in the story. In many ways, the gods' decision to flood the earth mirrors the power dynamics that we see in our modern world. The gods, who hold immense power, create a world for humans to inhabit, but, over time, begin to view them as expendable. It's a striking parallel to how modern society often views the natural world, something to be exploited and used until it no longer serves us. Could the epic of Atrahasis be speaking directly to us today, urging us to reconsider our relationship with the planet and with each other? Are we, like the Sumerians, on the verge of a great reckoning if we do not heed the lessons of history? The flood in the story, a cleansing of the earth, could be interpreted as a metaphor for the ecological crises that threaten our world. Climate change, deforestation, pollution, and the depletion of resources all suggest that we are pushing the earth to its limits, just as the Sumerians' ancestors were once driven to excess. One particularly chilling aspect of the epic of Atrahasis is the role of Enki, the god who saves Atrahasis from the flood. Enki's actions suggest that even in times of great peril, there are forces working to preserve life, forces that transcend destruction and embody renewal. Enki is the god of wisdom, and his warning to Atrahasis can be seen as a plea for humanity to listen to the wisdom of the earth and to live in balance with it. But who, in our modern world, holds the keys to this wisdom? Are we paying attention to those who are warning us, or are we, like the humans in the story, too caught up in our own desires to hear the message? As we continue to explore the rich tapestry of ancient Sumerian texts, the epic of Atrahasis stands as a powerful reminder of humanity's potential for both creation and destruction. It is a story that transcends time, echoing through the ages, urging us to reflect on the path we are walking today. The ancient Sumerians understood that the fate of humanity is intertwined with the fate of the earth, and their myth serves as a cautionary tale for all of us. Is the epic of Atrahasis simply an ancient myth, or is it a warning for our future? The question remains unanswered, as mysterious and elusive as the ancient gods who first spoke these words. What might we uncover if we dare to listen to the voices of the past? And what lessons have yet to be revealed, waiting to shape the future of humanity? The story of Atrahasis continues to resonate, challenging us to look at our world and ask, can we change before the floodwaters rise once again? In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, beneath the vast desert sands, a series of texts lay buried for millennia, waiting to be unearthed and read once again. The Enuma Elish, often referred to as the Babylonian creation epic, has long captivated scholars and mystics alike. Though the text itself may not have been written by the Sumerians, it is deeply intertwined with their mythology and cosmology, drawing from the rich oral traditions of the region. Its mystery has sparked debates, interpretations, and questions, many of which remain unanswered to this day. Imagine standing in the dim light of a dusty museum, a stone tablet in front of you, the ancient cuneiform script inscribed upon its surface. These are not mere symbols. They are fragments of a forgotten world, a world where gods fought for dominion over the heavens and the earth. In the Enuma Elish, we encounter the gods of Babylon, led by Marduk, locked in a cosmic struggle for power, creating the world in the process. But as we delve deeper, the mystery only thickens. What was the true significance of this text? Why did it resonate so deeply with the people of ancient Mesopotamia? And what does it reveal about their worldview and understanding of the universe? The Enuma Elish begins with a primordial chaos, a vast and unshaped expanse. In the beginning, there was only Apsu, the god of fresh water, and Tiamat, the goddess of salt water. Together, they embodied the chaotic forces that existed before the cosmos was formed. From their union came the first generations of gods, each one more powerful than the last. But as these new gods were born, they disrupted the ancient peace, leading to conflict between the gods themselves. Apsu, the embodiment of fresh water, is soon overthrown by his own offspring, setting in motion a chain of events that would lead to a cosmic battle. At the center of this myth stands Marduk, a young and fierce god who is chosen by the other gods to confront the monstrous Tiamat, who has become enraged and seeks to destroy the new gods. In a battle that echoes through the ages, Marduk defeats Tiamat, splitting her body in two and using one half to create the heavens and the other half to create the earth. It is a dramatic and violent tale of creation, one in which the gods' own strife gives birth to the world itself. On the surface, the Enuma Elish appears to be a story of divine conflict and creation, a mythological narrative that serves to explain the origins of the cosmos and the divine order. However, as scholars have examined the text more closely, a far more intricate and mysterious pattern emerges. The Enuma Elish is not just a simple creation myth. Rather, it seems to be a profound reflection of the cultural, political, and theological underpinnings of the ancient world. One of the key elements that has puzzled historians is the identity of Marduk and his connection to older Sumerian gods. Marduk is often considered a later Babylonian god, but his myth contains elements of earlier Sumerian deities. The Sumerians themselves had long worshipped gods such as Enlil, Enki, and Anu, who were central figures in their own pantheon. Yet, the Enuma Elish portrays Marduk as the supreme god, eclipsing these earlier deities. This has led some to speculate that the myth was part of a political agenda, designed to elevate Marduk above the older gods and establish his dominance in the Babylonian religious hierarchy. But was this simply a political maneuver? Or did the text reflect a deeper, more cosmic truth about the nature of divinity? The Enuma Elish is not just a story of political intrigue. It is a blueprint for understanding the cosmos and the order of the universe. The gods' conflict and Marduk's eventual triumph can be interpreted as a reflection of the cosmic struggle between chaos and order, a theme that appears in many ancient traditions. But what if the gods in this story were not just metaphors for natural forces, but actual beings, ancient entities with a knowledge of the universe far beyond what we can comprehend today? This brings us to another question that lingers at the edges of the Enuma Elish. Was the knowledge contained within the text truly the product of human thought? Or could it have been influenced by external forces? The precise origins of the Enuma Elish remain elusive. It was written in the Akkadian language, which was closely related to the Sumerian language, and it shares many similarities with Sumerian creation myths, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh. The text itself is written in poetic form, with its rhythm and structure evoking the power and majesty of the gods it describes. Some theorists have speculated that the knowledge embedded in the Enuma Elish may have come from outside the human experience altogether. Could the Babylonians have had access to a higher understanding of the cosmos, one that has since been lost to history? The gods themselves in the myth seem to possess knowledge that transcends human understanding, knowledge about the very fabric of the universe and the principles of creation itself. Could the Enuma Elish, then, be a relic of a lost wisdom passed down from ancient, advanced civilizations, or even from beings not of this world? As we turn our attention to the physical remnants of the Enuma Elish, the mystery only deepens. Tablets containing the text have been discovered at the Library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, dating back to the 7th century BCE, but the myth itself is much older. The Sumerians had long been recording their stories in cuneiform on clay tablets, and these early texts, though fragmentary, reveal that the Enuma Elish may have been part of a larger cycle of myths that were passed down through generations. The significance of these texts cannot be overstated. They represent one of the earliest examples of written literature and offer a glimpse into the worldview of the ancient peoples of the Near East. Yet, for all its importance, the Enuma Elish remains an enigma. Despite extensive study, scholars have not reached a consensus on its true meaning or purpose. Some view it as a political document, designed to assert the supremacy of the Babylonian state under Marduk. Others argue that it is a philosophical text, reflecting deep cosmic and metaphysical themes about the nature of the universe. Still others believe that it is a ritual text, used in religious ceremonies to invoke the power of the gods and establish the sacred order. Perhaps the most perplexing question, however, is whether the Enuma Elish is a cosmic allegory or a more literal account of a world in which gods, beings of unimaginable power, shaped the very fabric of reality. What if the gods described in the myth were not just symbolic figures, but actual, tangible entities? If that were the case, what could the gods of the Enuma Elish tell us about the world we live in today? And, more troubling still, what might the hidden knowledge within the myth suggest about the nature of the universe itself? As the text of the Enuma Elish unfolds before us, it raises more questions than it answers. What began as an ancient creation myth has evolved into a profound mystery that continues to captivate our imagination. Was the Enuma Elish simply a product of ancient religious thought, or does it contain secrets that remain hidden from us? The gods, it seems, have spoken, but their words, like the ancient tablets themselves, remain shrouded in mystery. Could it be that the secret of the Enuma Elish is not just about the creation of the world, but about the hidden forces that shape it? What knowledge might still be waiting to be uncovered, and what might it reveal about the very nature of our reality? The answers remain elusive, as they always have, locked within the ancient, enigmatic words of the gods. Nestled within the ruins of Uruk, one of the earliest and most influential cities in ancient Mesopotamia, stands a site that has fascinated scholars, archaeologists, and historians for centuries. It is the Sumerian temple of Eanna, a sprawling, sacred space dedicated to Eanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility, whose influence shaped not only Sumerian culture but also the entire pantheon of Mesopotamian deities. The name Eanna itself means House of Heaven, a fitting tribute to the divine powers that were said to reside there. Inanna's temple was not just a physical structure, it was a representation of the divine world itself. Eanna was a place where the celestial and earthly realms were said to converge, where humans could seek guidance, solace, and communion with the gods. It was here, at the heart of Uruk, that the great myths of Sumer were brought to life. where the stories of gods, kings, and mortals intersected in a spiritual tapestry that is still being unraveled today. As we stand before the remains of Eanna, it is impossible not to feel the weight of history. The ruins are scattered across a vast plateau, the ground dotted with remnants of ancient walls, altars, and courtyards. The imposing platform on which the temple once stood still rises above the surrounding landscape, offering a glimpse into the grandeur of what once was. Imagine the grandeur of this place, its towering ziggurat, once adorned with colorful mosaics reaching skyward, the heavens almost within grasp. The sunlight filtering through the arid landscape must have given the temple an ethereal glow, reflecting the celestial nature of the goddess Eanna herself. Eanna was not just a goddess of beauty and fertility. She was also deeply connected to the cycles of life, death, and rebirth, and it is these complex and often contradictory aspects of her divine nature that made her temple so pivotal to the Sumerian people. They believed that Eanna was a doorway to the divine, a place where the goddess herself could be called upon for protection, prosperity, and power. Eanna's temple was more than a physical location. It was the focal point of a vast cosmic order. It was the axis mundi, the center of the world, where human and divine forces met. But while the significance of the Temple of Eanna is widely acknowledged, there are still many questions that remain unanswered. What exactly was the role of the temple in the social and religious life of the Sumerians? What knowledge or mysteries did it hold that have been lost to time? One of the first things to consider is the temple's architectural design. The ziggurat that once towered over Uruk was not simply a monumental structure for worship. It was a massive, multi-tiered pyramid with a terraced design, characteristic of the Sumerian architectural style. The ziggurat of Eanna was built to represent the divine realm in physical form, with each level symbolizing a different aspect of the cosmos, each a step closer to the gods. But what of the uppermost level, where only the high priests and priestesses were allowed to go? It was said that these priests and priestesses could enter the sacred inner sanctum, a place where the goddess herself was believed to reside. Did they possess knowledge or insights into the divine that ordinary people could never access? And, more intriguingly, what rituals were performed in these sacred spaces? There are various accounts and scholarly theories about the nature of these rituals. Some suggest that the Temple of Eanna was the site of secretive rites of passage, rituals that involved both the community and the divine. There are references in ancient texts that suggest sacred marriages between the goddess Eanna and her earthly representative, the king of Uruk. These ceremonies were said to ensure the prosperity and fertility of the land. Did these rituals carry hidden, arcane meanings? Were they tied to a deeper understanding of nature, the cosmos, or perhaps even the spiritual underpinnings of life itself? What is most fascinating, however, are the rumors and stories that surround the temple's treasure. Ancient texts speak of vast stores of ritual objects, precious metals, and artifacts that were believed to be kept within the sacred walls of the temple. Some scholars have even speculated that the temple contained mystical knowledge, perhaps even texts or relics related to the lost arts of alchemy, astronomy, or ancient technologies. Given the importance of Eanna and her association with both the heavens and the earth, could the temple have been a repository for knowledge that transcended the religious domain and entered the realm of the arcane? For centuries, the ruins of the Temple of Eanna have been subject to the winds of time, weathering natural disasters, invasions, and looting. Yet, there are still those who believe that hidden beneath the surface lie secrets that have yet to be discovered. Could there be hidden chambers or artifacts that have not been unearthed? Could there be some piece of knowledge, some ancient truth, buried beneath the foundations of this once sacred space? Perhaps the most tantalizing aspect of the Temple of Eanna is its connection to the divine realm of the gods. As mentioned earlier, Eanna was not just a goddess of fertility and war, she was a cosmic force. And it is within the temple that her divine essence was said to be most strongly felt. Ancient Sumerians believed that by entering this temple, they could step into the divine realm itself, experiencing firsthand the presence of the gods. But were these spiritual encounters simply religious experiences, or could they have been a form of altered states of consciousness, facilitated by the rituals, the architecture, and the sacred space itself? Is it possible that the Sumerians, with their profound knowledge of the cosmos and the natural world, had access to knowledge of consciousness that we have yet to fully understand? There are also hints of a deeper mystery embedded within the mythological and symbolic imagery associated with Eanna and the temple. For instance, Eanna's connection to both the heavens and the earth suggests a duality that runs through the fabric of Sumerian spirituality. The very name of the temple, Eanna, House of Heaven, implies that it was more than just a physical structure. Could it have been designed to mirror the heavens themselves, functioning as a portal or axis between the mortal world and the divine? What if the temple was more than a place of worship? What if it was an instrument, a key to unlocking the mysteries of the cosmos? The Sumerian temple of Eanna stands as both a symbol of divine authority and a gateway to deeper understanding. Its ruins, though partially eroded by time, continue to hold the echoes of its ancient purpose, whispering to us from the past. While much has been uncovered, the temple's full significance remains a puzzle, a mystery that perhaps only the ancient Sumerians truly understood. What knowledge was lost when Eanna was abandoned, and what secrets might still lie buried beneath the soil of Uruk? As we continue to search for answers, we are left with an unsettling question. What might we have missed? And perhaps more importantly, what mysteries remain hidden in the ruins of the Temple of Eanna, waiting for a future generation to uncover them? As the sun casts its warm glow across the rugged landscape of southern Mesopotamia, the ancient city of Shuruppak lies hidden beneath layers of time. The remains of this once thriving metropolis, founded on the banks of the Euphrates River, whisper stories of a civilization long past. Here, in the shadow of forgotten ruins, a mystery lies buried, one that has intrigued scholars and mystics alike for centuries. It is the story of the Shuruppak tablets, a collection of ancient texts that some believe hold secrets to forbidden knowledge that has eluded modern understanding. The Shuruppak tablets themselves are small, fragile clay tablets inscribed with cuneiform script, a writing system that dates back to the early 3rd millennium BCE. These tablets were discovered in the early 20th century, buried among the ruins of Shuruppak, a city whose significance was thought to be secondary to other Mesopotamian power centers like Ur or Babylon. Yet, what these tablets contain is nothing short of extraordinary. They are not mere records of trade, law, or mythology. Instead, they are rich with references to ancient wisdom, seemingly beyond the scope of what one might expect from a society that, on the surface, was preoccupied with agriculture, governance, and religious rituals. The Shuruppak tablets reveal fragments of ancient wisdom that hint at a profound understanding of topics that would not emerge in recorded history until millennia later. The texts suggest advanced knowledge of topics like astronomy, medicine, and mathematics, knowledge that modern historians and archaeologists still struggle to explain. But what is perhaps most intriguing about these tablets is the suggestion that they may contain more than just ancient knowledge. They may also serve as a cryptic warning, a remnant of a lost age, reminding us of the dangers of knowledge that is too advanced for its time. At the heart of the mystery is a series of instructions found on the tablets. These instructions appear to detail methods for achieving not only spiritual enlightenment, but also technological advancement. Among the seemingly innocuous references to agricultural practices and religious rites, there are passages that hint at a deeper, more unsettling knowledge. Some of the texts describe rituals that align with the practice of alchemy, while others hint at practices that could be considered technological in nature. One of the most debated aspects of the Shuruppak tablets is their reference to a divine knowledge passed down from the gods. Some scholars interpret these references as symbolic, part of the mythology that was so intertwined with the everyday lives of the Sumerians. However, others have suggested that the Shuruppak tablets contain references to an ancient, almost scientific understanding of the cosmos, a knowledge that might be far older and more advanced than we have yet discovered. Could it be that the Sumerians, through their connection to the divine, had access to secrets that modern science has only just begun to uncover? Or is it possible that the Shuruppak tablets were intentionally created as a form of preservation, a way to pass on knowledge that might one day be lost or forgotten? Among the most curious aspects of these tablets is a reference to the forbidden fruit, an allusion that some believe refers to knowledge that was meant to remain hidden. It echoes the myth of the tree of knowledge found in various ancient cultures, including the biblical narrative. In the Sumerian context, this forbidden knowledge may have been linked to immortality, time manipulation, or even the ability to transcend the limitations of the human body. Was the knowledge contained within the Shuruppak tablets too dangerous to share with the broader population? And if so, why would such a civilization choose to inscribe it on clay tablets for all to find centuries later? The idea of forbidden knowledge is not a new one in the study of ancient cultures. Many societies throughout history have held certain pieces of knowledge as secret, either to maintain power or to prevent its misuse. Some have theorized that the Shuruppak tablets represent an attempt to preserve knowledge that was too dangerous for the common people to understand. This theory posits that the Sumerians, aware of the volatile potential of this knowledge, might have encoded it in cryptic language, using symbols and metaphors to keep it hidden from all but the most adept scholars and priesthoods. There are passages within the tablets that refer to stars and celestial bodies, many of which suggest a highly sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. The Sumerians' ability to track and predict celestial events such as eclipses and planetary motions is well documented. However, what remains mysterious is the level of detail found in the Shuruppak tablets. Some passages suggest a knowledge of the stars that goes beyond simple observation. Did the Sumerians possess a deeper, more profound understanding of the forces of the universe? Was their knowledge of the stars tied to their religious beliefs, or was it something more practical, perhaps even technological? A particularly strange passage in the tablets has caused many to speculate about the Sumerians' understanding of time and space. It describes a ritual in which the practitioner would leave the body and enter into a trance or altered state of consciousness, a process that some interpret as a form of astral projection. Could these references be part of a spiritual journey or the pursuit of an ancient form of psychic power? Or do they hint at an even more advanced concept, a form of quantum understanding of the nature of reality itself? As we delve deeper into the significance of the Shuruppak tablets, it becomes clear that they are not just ancient relics. They are a window into a world that is both mysterious and profoundly alien. What we are left with are fragments of a greater whole, a whole that perhaps held knowledge far beyond the Sumerians' time. How did they acquire such knowledge, and why did they deem it so important? Was it divine inspiration, or was it something else entirely? Could the gods themselves have shared this forbidden knowledge with the Sumerians, or was it a gift from a civilization that predated even the oldest known records? One question looms large as we consider the Shuruppak tablets. Why were they buried? These tablets were not placed in a temple or a royal archive, where they might have been preserved for public use or for future generations. Instead, they were hidden in the ruins of Shuruppak. an ancient city that had long since fallen into disrepair. Was this deliberate? Were these tablets hidden away to protect their knowledge from those who might misuse it? Or were they buried as a final act of safeguarding, preserving them for a future generation that might be ready to understand the deeper truths they contained? As we continue to examine the Shuruppak tablets, we are left with more questions than answers. What other secrets are locked away in these enigmatic writings? What knowledge, hidden beneath centuries of dust and time, is waiting to be uncovered? And perhaps most chillingly, could the knowledge they contain still have the power to alter our understanding of the world, or even our place in the cosmos? The Shuruppak tablets remain a mystery, one that invites us to peer into the past and wonder whether humanity has yet to unlock its full potential, or whether some doors are best left closed. As the sun began to set over the vast plains of ancient Mesopotamia, the shimmering glow of copper, bronze, and iron tools reflected the ever-present hum of the Sumerian economy. Along the banks of the Euphrates River, bustling trade routes connected Sumer to the farthest reaches of the ancient world. In this cradle of civilization, the Sumerians were not only innovators of agriculture, writing, and law, they were also pioneers in the art of metalworking and the metal trade, elements that remain as much a mystery today as they were in their time. The Sumerians are often credited with the first large-scale use of metals in their society. The evidence of this is found in their tools, weapons, ritual objects, and artifacts, all of which display a stunning mastery of metallurgy for their time. While copper had been in use for millennia before the rise of Sumer, the Sumerians took it to new heights. They were among the first to combine copper with tin to create bronze, marking the dawn of the Bronze Age. But the story of the Sumerians' relationship with metal doesn't just stop there. There are deeper, more enigmatic layers to uncover about how they obtained and utilized their metals, and why they were seemingly so advanced in their craft. One of the more curious aspects of the Sumerian metal trade involves the origins of the metals themselves. Where did the Sumerians source the copper, tin, and gold that were so vital to their economy and warfare? The Sumerians did not have extensive natural deposits of these metals within their borders. The copper used in Sumerian artifacts likely came from the mountainous regions to the north, including areas that are now part of modern-day Turkey and Iran. Tin, the critical component in making bronze, was even more elusive, often sourced from far-off regions like Afghanistan or Central Asia. This reliance on foreign resources raises a number of questions. How did the Sumerians manage to secure access to these distant lands? Were they part of larger, unexplored trade networks, or did they rely on intermediaries to obtain such rare and valuable commodities? Some scholars suggest that the Sumerians may have had contact with ancient civilizations that existed well beyond the reaches of the Fertile Crescent. Could there have been an early form of global trade that has been lost to history? One that predated the rise of the great empires of Egypt, India, and China? The route to the mystery of Sumerian metallurgy also leads us to the importance of sophisticated techniques that the Sumerians employed. Their ability to forge bronze, an alloy of copper and tin, was a technological leap that transformed their society. Tools, weapons, and ceremonial objects made from bronze were more durable and effective than those made from stone or pure copper, giving the Sumerians an edge in both everyday life and warfare. Bronze also became a vital component of their artistic expression, with intricate sculptures and religious objects crafted from the metal, depicting the gods and kings of the age. This begs the question: how did the Sumerians arrive at such an advanced understanding of metallurgy? Given that they did not have access to modern scientific knowledge, how did they learn the precise balance of copper and tin needed to produce the perfect alloy? It's widely accepted that the Sumerians experimented with various mixtures, but their success in mastering this process remains an enigma. Some speculate that their knowledge of metallurgy could have been derived from ancient traditions passed down through secretive schools of craftsmanship. Could there have been a higher source of knowledge, perhaps even from a forgotten civilization, that provided the Sumerians with this arcane technology? Interestingly, there are also whispers of the Sumerians' knowledge of metalworking going beyond even what is typically credited to them. The mysterious objects found in the royal tombs of Ur, such as the Standard of Ur, made of wood inlaid with lapis lazuli and gold, show an attention to detail and craftsmanship that suggests a higher level of expertise. The sheer quality of these objects has led some to ask whether the Sumerians were simply ahead of their time in metallurgy, or if there was some otherworldly influence, whether cultural or otherwise, that shaped their advances. The key to understanding the Sumerian mastery of metalwork might lie in the cities themselves. The great city of Ur, once a thriving metropolis, is often seen as the heart of Sumerian industry. Within its walls, artisans honed their skills and passed down their knowledge of metalworking. But even in the midst of this thriving trade, some artifacts suggest there was more at play than just basic craftsmanship. Among the tablets and relics of the time, there are references to gods who were said to have passed on the secrets of alchemy and metallurgy to the Sumerians. Whether these stories were simply mythological or rooted in something far more profound is still open to interpretation. The mysterious role of the gods in Sumerian metallurgy is a theme that runs throughout their culture. One figure who looms large in these myths is Enki, the god of wisdom, who is said to have brought the knowledge of crafts to mankind. The Sumerians attributed much of their technological achievements, including their mastery of metal, to the gifts bestowed upon them by these deities. Some even claim that the Sumerians were in possession of esoteric knowledge that has been lost to time, possibly passed down from civilizations that preceded them, cultures with an understanding of the earth and the cosmos far beyond their years. To add another layer of mystery, the Sumerians' extensive metalworking industry didn't just involve crafting objects for practical use. It also served a religious function. Many of their sacred artifacts, including offerings to the gods and the tools used in religious rituals, were created with the finest metals. This indicates that their knowledge of metallurgy wasn't just based on necessity, but also held a spiritual significance. The act of forging metal, in some instances, may have been seen as a symbolic parallel to the act of creating life itself, a divine process that connected the heavens with the earth. Yet despite all these intricacies, much about the Sumerian metal trade remains an open question. How did the Sumerians acquire such rare metals from distant lands? What exact techniques did they use to perfect their craft? And more tantalizingly, did the Sumerians have access to technologies or knowledge from lost civilizations, or even otherworldly sources that have never been fully uncovered? As we look at the remarkable pieces of metalwork left behind by the Sumerians, tools, weapons, and sacred objects, the mysteries of their trade continue to puzzle modern scholars. The Sumerians, with their deep connection to both the earth and the heavens, may have known more than we can ever fully comprehend. Was their mastery of metals simply a product of their environment and intellect? Or is there something more profound, something still hidden in the shadows of history, that explains their extraordinary abilities? The questions linger, as does the mystery. What secrets might we yet uncover in the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia? What more is hidden in the artifacts and tablets left behind by this enigmatic civilization? The answers are still waiting to be discovered. In the parched land of ancient Sumer, beneath the expansive sky that stretches over the ruins of Ur, Lagash, and Eridu, there lies a mystery, hidden deep in the earth. It is a mystery not easily visible to the naked eye, yet it casts a long shadow over the understanding of the Sumerian world. Throughout history, caves have been places of both ritual significance and mystery, often believed to connect the physical world to a realm beyond. But in the case of the Sumerians, the caves they encountered, and the enigmatic events tied to them, have become central to a puzzle that has yet to be solved. The ancient Sumerians were no strangers to the land's underground secrets. It was here, beneath the floodplains of Mesopotamia, that the Sumerians constructed their cities, designed their temples, and created their sacred spaces. Yet, even as they dominated the surface of the earth, caves remained largely unexplored and mysterious in their eyes. Many of the great Sumerian cities, like and Nippur, were built atop a complex network of tunnels and subterranean chambers, the true extent of which remains largely unknown. Were these underground spaces merely natural formations, or did the Sumerians purposely carve them into the earth, shaping them for a purpose that has since been forgotten? Caves, in nearly every ancient civilization, often served as more than just places of shelter. To the Sumerians, they were believed to be the dwelling places of the gods, the gateway to the underworld, and the spaces where sacred rituals were performed. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest stories ever told, the hero's journey takes him to the dark recesses of the earth to find the secret of immortality. Caves, in this ancient worldview, were not just geographic features. They were deeply symbolic of death, rebirth, and transformation. As archaeologists have dug into the layers of Sumerian history, they have discovered that the Sumerians weren't just interested in the caves they could see above ground. They left behind mysterious artifacts, stone tablets, statues, and ceremonial objects, suggesting that certain caves played a significant role in their religious rituals. Some scholars have even proposed that the cave systems beneath the great cities of Sumer may have served as the underworld in Sumerian cosmology, places where spirits passed through from life to death and beyond. The most famous of these cave-like spaces is the Temple of Eanna, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility, whose descent into the underworld became a central myth in Sumerian religion. But there is something particularly unsettling about Eanna's descent. According to the myth, Eanna travels to the underworld, passing through 7 gates, each of which strips her of her earthly power and identity. She is then trapped in the dark realm of the dead, a fate that no mortal or god could easily escape. While this myth has been widely interpreted as a symbol of death and rebirth, some believe that it might hold deeper secrets, perhaps an allegory for the Sumerians' own spiritual exploration of caves and the unknown. But it is not just myths or religious narratives that tie the Sumerians to underground mysteries. In recent years, excavations near the ancient cities have revealed curious cave-like chambers beneath temples and city structures. Some of these chambers appear to have been used for rituals, where objects like idols and offerings were found carefully placed on stone altars. What purpose did these subterranean spaces serve? Were they designed as physical representations of the underworld, where the gods could descend to the land of the living? Intriguingly, there are accounts from ancient texts that mention hidden caves, in which Sumerian priests and kings would retreat for ritual fasting or meditation. Some of these underground retreats were thought to be portals to communicate directly with the gods or receive divine knowledge. Hieratic texts refer to these spaces as places where the priesthood would enter a trance-like state, possibly seeking guidance from the spiritual world. These references suggest that caves, far from being mere shelters or utilitarian spaces, may have served as powerful symbolic locations, representing humanity's connection to the divine. Yet the most puzzling aspect of the Sumerian cave mysteries lies in the artifacts that have been uncovered in connection with these underground sites. In several sites, scholars have found items that do not seem to belong to the Sumerian culture, objects that appear to be from a time far earlier than the Sumerians themselves. Pre-Sumerian relics, crafted from metals that were not commonly used by the Sumerians, suggest that there were advanced cultures, perhaps lost civilizations, operating long before the Sumerians established themselves. Could these cultures have left behind their knowledge of the caves and underground rituals? Or could they have inhabited these caves before the Sumerians, passing down their knowledge of these strange hidden spaces? this leads to further speculation. What exactly were the Sumerians hoping to find in the depths of these underground realms? Was it merely a place for ritual sacrifice, or were they hoping to access some deeper, esoteric knowledge, perhaps even a source of power tied to the earth itself? Some theorists suggest that the Sumerians' advanced understanding of metallurgy, medicine, and astronomy may have been connected to ancient cave knowledge passed down from a civilization far older than Sumer itself. Could these caves have been repositories of ancient wisdom, holding secrets that would have been deemed dangerous or forbidden? Among the most intriguing discoveries are the cave paintings that have been found near several Sumerian sites. While these paintings are far less abundant than those found in later cultures, some are remarkably sophisticated, depicting celestial symbols, gods, and geometric patterns that are eerily reminiscent of Sumerian astrological knowledge. Could these paintings serve as a map of the heavens, or perhaps the underworld itself? Were the Sumerians attempting to chart an unseen world beneath their feet, one that would remain a mystery until the advent of modern archaeology? For now, the true extent of the Sumerian cave mysteries remains elusive. Excavations continue in the ancient cities of Sumer, but the underground realms that may hold the answers are often too dangerous or inaccessible to explore fully. The hidden chambers and underground tunnels that have been uncovered are far too intricate and vast to have been created purely for functional purposes. And though much has been learned about the Sumerian use of caves, the deeper layers of mystery, those involving lost knowledge, forbidden rituals, or contact with otherworldly forces, remain just out of reach. What might be buried beneath the sand of ancient Mesopotamia? Could there still be undiscovered caves, temples, or chambers that hold the forbidden knowledge the Sumerians were believed to have sought? The answers to these questions, like the mysteries of the ancient caves themselves, remain hidden in the shadows, waiting for someone to uncover them. And so, we are left to wonder, what secrets do the caves beneath Sumer's ancient cities still hold? Could they reveal more about the mysterious nature of Sumerian spirituality, or even unlock the history of an unknown civilization? The answers may lie deep beneath the earth, waiting for the right moment or the right discovery to come to light. Until then, the mystery endures. As the sun sets over the ruins of Sumer, the wind sweeps across the vast desert, rustling the ancient stones that once formed the great cities of Ur and Nippur. In the fading light, the weathered tablets of clay and stone stand as silent witnesses to a civilization that flourished over 5,000 years ago. Each one is inscribed with a script that seems at once familiar and utterly foreign, its symbols intricate and precise, yet to this day some remain untranslated, stubbornly refusing to reveal their meaning. The Sumerian language, often hailed as the earliest known written language, is a puzzle that continues to challenge linguists and historians. Yet even with the wealth of knowledge we've gleaned from cuneiform tablets and inscriptions, there remains an astonishing number of symbols and glyphs that defy understanding. The presence of these untranslated symbols hints at a deeper mystery, one that might hold the key to unlocking secrets of Sumerian culture, beliefs, and possibly their very history. Many of the cuneiform texts we have today are decipherable. Thanks to the work of scholars like Henry Rawlinson, who cracked the cuneiform code in the 19th century, we are able to read a considerable amount of Sumerian texts, revealing stories of kings, gods, mythological tales, and laws. Yet within this vast archive, there are still inscriptions that resist full translation. These symbols appear on tablets, seals, and ceremonial objects, often in contexts where their meaning could provide us with insights into aspects of Sumerian life that remain lost to time. Take, for example, the standard of Ur, one of the most iconic objects from the ancient world. This rectangular box, adorned with intricate mosaics and inscriptions, depicts scenes of war and peace, a vivid portrayal of Sumerian society. The inscriptions on the standard are partially readable, with certain symbols appearing more than once. Yet, despite the efforts of generations of scholars, some parts of these texts remain enigmatic, as if they are guarding a secret. What knowledge might these untranslated symbols hold, and why have they eluded the grasp of modern understanding for so long? In another part of the Sumerian world, near the ancient city of Lagash, a stela inscribed with royal decrees remains a cryptic challenge for linguists. The text, believed to have been carved by the ruler Urukagina around 2300 BCE, is one of the earliest examples of written law. While much of it has been deciphered, a significant portion of the inscription still resists translation. The symbols used in these passages appear to follow no known grammatical structure, and some scholars have suggested that they may represent a lost dialect or even an entirely different language altogether. Could these symbols provide us with a glimpse into a forgotten language, one that was perhaps used only by a select group within the Sumerian elite? Or is it possible that these symbols belong to a sacred code, a script reserved for secret knowledge known only to the priests or scribes? One of the most intriguing areas where untranslated symbols have been found is on the cylinder seals of Sumer. These small cylindrical objects, made of stone or clay, were used to mark documents or authenticate goods. The seals were rolled across soft clay to create an impression, leaving behind detailed scenes of gods, mythological creatures, and rituals. While the iconography of these seals is often decipherable, many of the symbols used in their inscriptions remain a mystery. Some of these seals depict gods with anomalous features, such as multiple heads or wings, paired with unfamiliar symbols that don't seem to correspond to any known Sumerian words. Are these symbols the result of a sacred language, one that was used for divine or ritual purposes? Or are they remnants of an entirely different civilization, one whose knowledge was absorbed by the Sumerians but has since been lost? The mystery of these untranslated symbols becomes even more perplexing when we consider the possibility that they could represent something more than just words or phrases. Could they be mathematical symbols, a form of ancient code or encrypted message that was used by Sumerian elites to transmit hidden knowledge? Some scholars have speculated that the Sumerians, known for their advanced knowledge of mathematics and astronomy, may have used these symbols in ways we don't yet fully understand. Was there a hidden scientific or philosophical language embedded in these inscriptions? One that encoded knowledge about the natural world, the heavens, or even the laws of the universe? This idea gains further weight when we examine the Sumerian temples, where inscriptions with these mysterious symbols were often found. The Temple of Eanna, the goddess of love and war, was one such location where cryptic markings were left behind. Priests, who were considered the intermediaries between gods and men, would have used these symbols in their rituals. But what if these symbols held a higher purpose, one that extended beyond ritual or religious significance? Could they represent a deeper understanding of cosmic forces or hidden truths about the universe that the Sumerians were attempting to communicate through their symbols? Were these symbols of power, encoded to protect divine knowledge from those unworthy of understanding? Adding to the mystery is the fact that some of these untranslated symbols have been found in places where one might least expect them, in royal tombs, private homes, and even on objects used in daily life. Why would a symbol that seems so sacred and cryptic appear in such mundane contexts? Could this be evidence of a secret knowledge that permeated Sumerian society, known only to a select few but hinted at in the symbols scattered throughout their world? Or could these symbols have been deliberately left untranslated, as a way of ensuring that only the initiated could unlock their full meaning? Scholars have long debated whether these symbols might be part of a lost language, a form of communication that predated the Sumerians and was absorbed by them over time. If this is true, Could these symbols represent the last vestiges of an even older, forgotten civilization? The notion that the Sumerians may have inherited knowledge from a more ancient culture is not entirely unfounded. Some ancient texts hint at the possibility of a pre-Sumerian civilization, one that existed long before the rise of Uruk, and whose knowledge may have been passed down through the symbols that remain scattered across the Mesopotamian landscape. But what if these symbols are not the remnants of a forgotten language, but rather a divine code, a system of symbols used to convey messages from the gods? If this is the case, we might be looking at an encryption of sorts, one that was meant to protect sacred knowledge from those who might misuse it. Could the gods themselves have communicated with the Sumerians through these symbols, leaving a trail of clues that, when pieced together, might unlock the deepest mysteries of their existence? As we sit in the shadow of the ancient ruins, surrounded by the remnants of a once great civilization, we are left with more questions than answers. Untranslated Sumerian symbols are not just linguistic puzzles. They are windows into a forgotten world, a key to unlocking the secrets of a civilization that believed itself to be in direct communication with the divine. And as we continue to study these mysterious inscriptions, we must wonder, what knowledge have we yet to uncover? What ancient wisdom remains hidden, waiting for the right moment or the right mind to decipher it? The symbols, like the ruins themselves, stand silent and timeless, waiting for the answers to be revealed.